The world here does not end with a precipice or a wall, but with a fading out, a slow and agonizing desaturation of color, until there is nothing left but the gray of the sky and the white of the earth, merging together in a seamless, suffocating embrace. We are walking into that void, a long, thin line of dark shapes etched against the vast, pale canvas of the frozen north. If one were to look from above, from the perspective of the hawks that no longer fly here, we would appear as nothing more than a scratch on the surface of a great, unblemished pearl, a scar of charcoal drawn slowly, agonizingly slowly, across a sheet of textured paper. The convoy moves with the lethargy of a dying river, a sluggish procession of heavy boots and bowed heads, marching towards a destination that seems to retreat further with every step we take. There is no horizon to mark our progress, only the shifting veil of snow that hangs in the air like a curtain of lace, obscuring the distance, hiding the mountains that we know are there, waiting for us in the dark. The ground is not solid. It is a crust of ice over a bed of powder, deep and treacherous. Each step requires a deliberate, exhausting effort. The boot must be lifted high, pulling free from the grip of the drift with a soft, sucking sound, the leather creaking in the bitter cold, stiff and unyielding against the ankle. Then the foot is placed forward, testing the weight, the sole finding purchase on the uneven surface, the snow compressing with a dry, brittle crunch that sounds like the breaking of small bones. And then the weight shifts, the body leans, the breath huffs out in a cloud of white steam, and the process begins again with the other leg. Lift, swing, place, crunch, lift, swing, place, crunch. It is a rhythm devoid of music, a tempo set by the limits of human endurance, a beat that has been pounding into the ice for days or perhaps weeks. Time has no meaning here. The sun does not rise. It merely bleeds a faint, sickly luminescence through the cloud cover, turning the gray to a lighter slate, before sinking back into the obscure depths of the afternoon, plunging us back into the twilight that is our constant companion. The wind is the only living thing in this desolate corridor. It does not howl, it whispers. It flows over the ridges and through the valleys of the snow dunes with a sibilant hiss, a constant, low-frequency vibration that settles in the ears and refuses to leave. It carries with it the scent of ancient ice, of stone frozen for millennia, of a purity so absolute it burns the nostrils. It presses against the convoy, a physical weight, a hand pushing against our chests, trying to halt our advance, trying to turn us back, or perhaps simply trying to freeze us in place, to turn us into statues of ice to mark the path for those who might come after. We lean into it, heads down, chins tucked into the rough, scratchy wool of our collars, eyes narrowed to slits to protect them from the stinging needles of driven snow. The eyelashes gather frost, heavy beads of white that weigh down the lids, making it harder to keep the eyes open, making the desire to close them, to sleep, to drift away, almost overwhelming. But we do not close them. We watch the heels of the man in front of us. That is the entire world. The cracked leather of a heel, the frayed stitching, the clump of snow clinging to the sole. We follow that heel. If it stops, we stop. If it moves, we move. The darkness of the landscape is textured, like a drawing made on rough, grain-heavy paper. The shadows are not black, but deep, rich tones of indigo and charcoal, cross-hatched lines where the pine trees stand in silent clusters, their branches weighed down by heavy mantles of snow. They look like old men, hunched and shrouded in white robes, watching the procession pass with indifferent stoicism. The light is low, always low. Even at midday, the world is bathed in a soft, diffused gloom, a blue-gray wash that flattens perspective and steals depth. But now, As the day fails completely and the true night begins to descend, the lanterns are lit. This changes the drawing. It introduces a new element to the composition: fire. The guards at the front and the rear of the convoy carry the lanterns, iron cages housing flickering flames fed by oil that smells of fat and earth. The light they cast is weak, struggling against the overwhelming oppression of the cold, but it is warm in color, a deep, resonant amber that stains the snow around it. It catches the edges of things. It highlights the brass buttons on a greatcoat, turning them into momentarily glowing embers. It illuminates the condensation rising from a horse's nostrils, turning the breath into a cloud of gold dust. It casts long, distorted shadows that stretch out across the snowdrifts, dancing and twisting as the lanterns swing with the rhythm of the march. These shadows are giants, towering figures that mimic our movements, mocking our slowness, stretching out to touch the darkness of the trees beyond the road. We are walking on a road that is not a road, but a memory of a path, a track beaten down by seasons of travel but constantly erased by the wind and the snow. The convoy consists of 50 prisoners and 12 guards, along with 2 heavy wagons drawn by shaggy, thick-set horses that look more like bears than equines. The wagons creak. It is a sound that cuts through the wind, a high-pitched, rhythmic squeal of wood rubbing against wood, of iron axles groaning under the weight of supplies. They carry the tents, the food, the extra oil, and the few who can no longer walk. To ride in the wagon is a mercy and a curse. It is a respite from the labor of walking, but it is colder there, sitting still, letting the frost seep into the bones without the internal fire of exertion to hold it back. Most prefer to walk until they fall. The coats we wear are gray, a coarse, heavy wool that smells of damp sheep and old smoke. They are stiff with the cold, freezing into rigid shapes around our bodies. When we move, the fabric does not fold. It bends, creaking softly. The collars are turned up, wrapped with scarves of indeterminate color, rags really, tied tightly to keep the warmth in and the wind out. Gloves are mittens of thick felt, clumsy and large, making our hands useless for anything but gripping the ropes or the sides of the wagons. Inside the mittens, fingers are curled into tight fists, thumbs tucked inside trying to share the heat. Sensation in the fingertips vanished miles ago, replaced by a dull, throbbing ache that pulses in time with the heart. It is a reminder that we are still alive, this pain. It is a companion. When the pain stops, when the numbness becomes absolute, that is when the fear should set in. But by then, the mind is usually too slow to feel fear. The air we breathe is thin and sharp. It tastes of metal. Every inhalation cools the lungs, chilling the blood from the inside out. Every exhalation is a visible sacrifice of heat, a plume of life escaping into the indifference of the atmosphere. The moisture in our breath freezes instantly upon contact with the air, settling on our scarves, our beards, our eyebrows. We are turning white slowly. We are becoming part of the landscape. The frost builds up on the stubble of faces, turning dark hair white, turning skin pale and waxy. We look at each other and see ghosts, spectral figures trudging through the gloom, eyes hollow and dark, faces masks of frozen determination. There is no conversation. To speak is to waste breath, to let in the cold, to break the rhythm. The silence is heavy, a blanket that covers us all. There is only the sound of the wind, the crunch of the snow, the creak of the wagons, and the soft, rhythmic jingle of the harness chains on the horses. Walking in this cold changes the way one thinks. Thoughts become slow, viscous, like oil in the winter. Complex ideas drift away, unable to maintain their structure in the freezing air. Memories of warmth, of a hearth fire, of hot soup, of a summer sun feel distant, like stories read in a book long ago belonging to someone else. The mind focuses on the immediate, on the biological imperatives. Lift the foot, place the foot, don't slip, breathe, blink. The horizon is a blur of gray and white, a smudge of charcoal where the sky meets the earth. We are walking towards the end of the world, or perhaps we are simply walking in place while the world moves beneath us. It feels the same. The scenery changes so slowly it is imperceptible. A rock formation, jagged and black, appears on the left. It takes an hour to reach it, another hour to pass it, and a third hour before it fades into the obscurity behind us. It is a landmark of nothing, a monument to the emptiness. The texture of the snow changes as we climb a slight rise. Here, the wind has scoured the powder away, revealing the hard, blue ice beneath. The drawing becomes sharper, the lines harder. The boots slip and slide, finding no purchase. The line of the convoy wavers like a snake moving over glass. Prisoners stumble, their arms flailing silently in the heavy coats, caught by the chains that link them in groups of 5. The chains are iron, black and pitted, heavy links that drag in the snow between us, carving shallow furrows that are quickly filled in by the wind. The metal is so cold that to touch it with bare skin would mean losing that skin. It is a conduit of the freeze, a continuous line of cold connecting us all, binding us together in our misery. When one man stumbles, the chain pulls taut, jerking the man behind and the man ahead. We are a single organism, a segmented worm crawling across the ice, sharing the struggle, sharing the weight. As night deepens, the colors shift from the gray of twilight to the deep, resonant blues of the Arctic dark. The snow is no longer white. It is a pale, luminous blue, reflecting the little light that remains in the sky. The trees are black silhouettes, tears in the fabric of the night. The lantern light becomes more precious, pools of liquid amber moving through the blue. The aesthetic is soft, blurred, the edges of reality smudged by the falling snow. It is a beautiful scene if one were detached from it, a study in atmosphere and light. But from within, it is a cage. The beauty is cold, indifferent, lethal. The stars begin to appear, pinpricks of hard, white light in the velvet sky. They look incredibly distant, further away than they have ever been. They offer no guidance, no comfort. They are merely other worlds, frozen and silent, watching us from across the void. The lead guard, a massive figure wrapped in furs that double his width, halts. The motion ripples down the line. We stop. The cessation of movement is jarring. The body, accustomed to the rhythm, protests. The muscles seize. The cold, no longer held at bay by the generation of heat from exertion, rushes in, claiming the spaces between the layers of clothing. We stand there, swaying slightly, waiting. The wind grows louder in the absence of our footsteps. It whistles through the spokes of the wagon wheels. The horses lower their heads, their breath steaming around their knees. We do not ask why we have stopped. We do not care. Stopping means rest, but it also means freezing. It is a double-edged sword. We stand and wait, eyes fixed on the snow, on the boots, on the nothingness. The guard raises his lantern high. The light swings, illuminating a patch of trees that look exactly like the trees we passed hours ago. He is looking for something, a marker, a sign. We do not know what. We are just the cargo. The light catches the falling snowflakes, turning them into sparks, a shower of golden glitter raining down on us. For a second, it looks magical, like something from a fairy tale, before the cold bites the nose and the reality returns. We are standing on the roof of the world, exposed and vulnerable. The silence stretches out, tense and brittle. A horse snorts, a loud, wet sound that startles the quiet. Then a command is grunted, A low sound lost to the wind, but the intention is clear. We move again. The first step after a pause is the hardest. The joints have stiffened. The boots have frozen to the ice. It requires a surge of will to break the seal, to lift the weight, to restart the pendulum, but we do it. The chain pulls. The line moves. We walk. The rhythm returns, slower now, heavier. Crunch, lift, swing, place. The night is long and the path is endless. The darkness is a physical substance, a fluid that we must wade through. It wraps around the ankles, the knees, the waist. The lantern light pushes it back, but only a few feet. Beyond that circle of amber, the world is gone. There is only the sensation of the wind and the knowledge that we must keep walking, or we will become part of the sketch, permanent lines drawn on the frozen paper, never to be erased. The convoy descends into a shallow valley, a bowl of white where the wind swirls in confused eddies. The snow is deeper here, drifted high against the dark trunks of dead trees that stand like broken pillars of a ruined temple. The texture of the scene is rougher, the pastel strokes heavy and layered. We wade through the drifts, the snow reaching our knees, a resistance that burns the thighs. The horses struggle, their hooves churning the snow into a paste. The wagons lurch, the wood groaning in protest. It is a slow-motion struggle against the elements, a silent battle where no blows are struck, only the relentless pressure of the cold against the fragile warmth of the blood. We are winning for now simply by continuing to move. But the victory is temporary. The cold has time. It has all the time in the world. It can wait. It waits in the spaces between the trees, in the shadows of the drifts, in the silence of the stars. It waits for a stumble, for a fall, for the moment when the will breaks and the desire to sleep becomes stronger than the desire to walk. The lantern at the rear of the convoy swings in a wide arc, casting a long, sweeping shadow that travels across the snowbank like the hand of a clock. It passes over the figure of a prisoner who has fallen behind the step of the others, the chain pulling taut. He rights himself, a stumble in the dark, and hurries to regain the slack, his breath coming in short, panicked gasps that we can see but not hear. The line absorbs the disruption and smooths itself out. We are a self-correcting entity. The fear of being left behind, of being cut from the chain and left in the dark, is a primal motivator, deeper even than the exhaustion. To be alone here is death. The group is survival. The line is life. And so we walk. The hours bleed into one another, indistinguishable. The night is a tunnel with no light at the end, only the lantern light we carry with us. The vintage drawing of our journey continues to unfurl, a scroll of dark paper and pale chalk depicting the slow, quiet migration of souls across a frozen hell. There is no destination in sight, no shelter, no end. There is only the walk, the crunch of the boot, the swing of the arm, the cloud of breath, the cold, the silence. We are the ink on the page, flowing slowly towards the bottom, towards the edge where the paper ends. But the paper does not end. It goes on forever, white and gray and cold. The convoy moves like a slow-drying ink stain across the parchment of the tundra, a jagged line that neither thickens nor thins, but merely persists. We have left the shallow valley behind, ascending a gradual slope that offers no shelter, exposing us fully to the open expanse of the plateau. Here, the world is reduced to two elements: the sky, a heavy lid of bruised purple and charcoal clouds, and the ground, a sweeping desolation of wind-sculpted snow that stretches into an infinite blur. There are no trees here to break the wind, no rocks to hide behind. The wind arrives unimpeded, traveling across hundreds of miles of frozen ocean to strike us. It carries the weight of the pole, a physical mass that buffers the sides of the wagons and pushes against the bodies of the men and horses, demanding that we stop, that we lie down, that we surrender to the deep, dreamless sleep of the hypothermic. But the line pushes back. It leans into the gale, a collective angle of resistance, 50 men and 12 guards and 4 horses tilting forward against the invisible wall. The sound of the wind on this plateau is different. In the valley, it hissed and whispered through the dead branches. Here, it is a constant, low-frequency roar, a drone that vibrates in the chest cavity and rattles the teeth. It is the sound of emptiness, of a vacuum trying to fill itself. It creates a pressure in the ears, a sensation of being underwater, submerged in a sea of cold air. We wrap the scarves tighter, pulling them up over the nose, leaving only a narrow slit for the eyes. The wool is frozen stiff, a mask of ice that scrapes against the skin with every movement of the jaw. Breath does not escape easily here. It is torn from the lips by the wind, whipped away instantly into the slipstream, leaving no cloud, no trace that we were ever here. The cold finds the gaps in the layers of clothing with predatory precision. A seam that has come loose, a button that has fallen off, a glove that is too short. These are the weaknesses that the wind exploits, driving invisible needles of frost deep into the flesh. The lanterns swing violently in the gusts, the iron cages creaking on their hooks. The light they cast is erratic, frantic splashes of amber that wash over the snow and then vanish, leaving behind an afterimage of warmth that makes the returning darkness feel even colder. The shadows we cast are no longer slow, lumbering giants. They are frantic, skittering things, stretching and shrinking, detaching and reattaching, mimicking a panic we are too exhausted to feel. The light catches the texture of the ground, revealing the sastrugi, hard, wave-like ridges of snow carved by the wind. They look like a frozen sea, a storm captured in a photograph and turned to stone. Walking over them is difficult. The boots slide on the polished windward faces and punch through the softer leeward drifts. It creates a stumbling, uneven rhythm. Step, slide, catch. Step, sink, pull. The chains rattle, a chaotic percussion that is swallowed by the roar of the wind. We focus on the horses. They are the true anchors of this procession. Their heads are bowed low, their thick, shaggy coats matted with ice and snow, turning them into prehistoric beasts, creatures of the glaciated past. Their breath steams in thick, rhythmic jets that freeze instantly on their muzzles, forming long, delicate icicles that hang like crystal beards. We can hear the heavy plod of their hooves, a dull thudding that resonates through the ice, a sound of immense weight and power. The harness leather is black and wet, creaking with every step, the brass fittings dull and tarnished by the frost. The horses do not look up. They do not look around. They simply walk, driven by instinct and training, pulling the heavy wagons that groan and shudder behind them. The wheels of the wagons are rimmed with iron, and they cut deep tracks into the snow, 2 parallel lines that mark our passage, the only evidence that humanity has ever set foot in this place. These tracks will be gone by morning, filled in by the drifting snow, erased as if we never existed. The cold has a smell here on the plateau. It smells of ozone and iron, a clean, sterile scent that burns the back of the throat. It is the smell of a laboratory, of a place where life is not meant to be. It clarifies the mind in a cruel way, stripping away all extraneous thought, leaving only the core commands of survival. There is no room for nostalgia, for hope, for despair. There is only the sensation of the foot hitting the ground, the ache in the shoulder where the strap of the pack digs in, the numbness spreading from the toes up the calves. The body becomes a machine, a biological automaton programmed to walk. The mind retreats into a small, warm corner of the skull, observing the body from a distance, watching the legs move as if they belong to someone else. This detachment is a mercy. It allows us to endure the unendurable. To the left of the convoy, the ground drops away into a deeper darkness, a shadow that implies a ravine or a cliff. We cannot see the bottom, only the swirling mists of snow that rise from the depths like steam from a cauldron. The guards keep us to the right, steering the wagons away from the edge with shouts that are snatched away by the wind. We walk a safe distance from the void, but we can feel its presence, a gravitational pull that tugs at the periphery of our vision. It is a reminder that a single misstep could be the end. The darkness down there is absolute, a black velvet curtain drawn across the world. The lantern light does not reach it. It is a place for the wind and the ghosts of the mountains. We keep our eyes on the boots of the man in front, the leather cracked and worn, the heel striking the ice, the toe lifting. That is our horizon. The texture of the drawing shifts as we cross a patch of exposed rock. The snow has been stripped away completely here, leaving bare stone that is black and slick with verglas, a thin, transparent coating of ice. The visual style changes from the soft, blurred strokes of pastel on paper to the hard, sharp lines of charcoal on slate. The boots ring out on the stone, a sharp, metallic clatter that echoes strangely in the open air. The horses struggle for traction, their iron-shod hooves sparking against the rock, brief flashes of orange fire that die instantly in the cold. The wagon skids sideways, the wheels losing their grip, sliding towards the edge of the track. The guards shout, their voices hoarse and urgent, pushing against the heavy wood, their boots slipping on the ice. It is a moment of slow-motion tension, a tableau of struggle illuminated by the swinging lanterns. The muscles of the horses bunch and strain under the thick coats. The chains between the prisoners pull taut, metal biting into wool, pulling us off balance. We stumble, knees hitting the hard stone, hands scrambling for purchase on the slick surface. And then the moment passes. The wagons find grip again. The horses find their footing. The convoy corrects itself, moving back onto the snow, back into the muffled silence of the powder. The heart rate slows. The adrenaline fades, leaving behind a cold sweat that freezes on the skin, a layer of clammy ice beneath the wool. We resume the rhythm. The rock is left behind, a dark island in the sea of white. We are back to the crunch, the squeak, the hiss of the wind. The guard nearest to me is a silhouette against the dark sky, a cutout of black paper. He wears a heavy greatcoat with a high collar, a fur hat pulled down low over his ears. He carries a long staff, using it to test the depth of the snow to probe for hidden crevices. He walks with a heavy, deliberate gait, conserving energy. I can see the frost on his shoulders, a dusting of white powder that makes him look like a statue. He does not look at us. He looks at the ground, at the path ahead. He is as much a prisoner of this march as we are, bound by duty as we are bound by chains. The cold makes no distinction between the jailer and the jailed. It freezes the marrow of both with equal indifference. His breath plumes out in the same white clouds as ours, dissipates into the same dark air. We pass a cairn of stones, a pyramid of dark rocks piled by some unknown traveler in a forgotten age. It is covered in ice, a sculpture of glass and stone. The wind has sculpted the ice into strange, organic shapes, fins and ridges that grow from the rocks like fungus. It stands as a silent sentinel, a marker of miles in a landscape that defies measurement. To see it is a small event, a break in the monotony. We watch it approach, we pass it, we watch it recede. It is the only thing that changes in an hour of walking. It is a landmark of the void. We wonder who built it, why they were here if they survived. But the thoughts are fleeting, fragile things that shatter in the cold. The cairn disappears into the gloom behind us, swallowed by the night. The sky begins to change. not with the light of dawn but with the shifting of the aurora. Faint bands of green and violet light begin to ripple across the upper atmosphere, washing the clouds in a spectral glow. It is a cold light devoid of heat, a celestial phosphorescence that illuminates the snow with an eerie underwater pallor. The landscape is transformed. The shadows deepen to a bruised indigo. The snow takes on a greenish tint, like the skin of a dying thing. The lantern light seems warmer, richer in contrast to the alien colors of the sky. The aurora moves slowly, undulating like curtains in a draft, folding and unfolding in silence. It is beautiful in a terrifying way, a reminder of the vast cosmic forces at work above us, forces that care nothing for the small, warm specks crawling across the ice below. We look up, eyes watering in the wind, mesmerized by the display. For a moment, we forget the cold, forget the weight of the chains. We are simply witnesses to the majesty of the high latitudes. But the wind reminds us. A gust hits the convoy broadside, a solid wall of air that staggers the line. The snow is picked up and hurled into our faces, a horizontal blizzard that blinds and stings. The aurora is hidden behind the veil of driven snow. We lower our heads, tucking chins into chests, turning shoulders to the wind. The world shrinks back down to the immediate circle of the lantern light. The beauty is gone, replaced by the struggle. The snow accumulates in the folds of our coats, in the creases of our elbows, in the hollows of our boots. We are carrying the landscape with us, becoming heavier with every mile. The weight of the snow is a constant burden, a tax levied by the environment for the privilege of passage. The terrain begins to descend again, leaving the exposed plateau for a region of sparse, stunted forest. The trees here are twisted and gnarled, dwarfed by the harsh conditions. They grow close to the ground, huddled together in clumps for warmth, their branches interlocking like the fingers of nervous hands. They are black skeletons against the snow, etched with fine lines of charcoal. We pass between them, the path narrowing. The wind is broken here, its roar reduced to a mournful sighing in the branches. The sound of the convoy changes. The crunch of the snow is louder, the creak of the leather more distinct. The silence of the forest is heavy, a presence that watches from the shadows. The lantern light flickers across the twisted trunks, creating monsters that leap and crouch in the corner of the eye. We walk closer together, the chain slackening slightly as the line compresses. The forest feels like a trap, a place where the darkness is concentrated, where the cold gathers in pools. The snow in the forest is softer, deeper. It has not been packed hard by the wind. We sink to our shins, wading through the powder. It requires a different kind of effort, a lifting of the knees, a dragging of the feet. The muscles in the hips burn. The breath comes faster, shorter. The clouds of steam from 50 mouths merge into a fog that hangs low over the convoy, obscuring the view of the wagons ahead. We are walking in a cloud of our own making, a microclimate of humidity and warmth that is instantly frozen by the surrounding air. The trees lean in, their branches heavy with snow, brushing against the tops of the wagons, knocking loose showers of white powder that fall on the guards and the horses. It is a tunnel of wood and ice, a claustrophobic corridor that seems to have no end. In this forest, the darkness has a texture like velvet, thick and soft and suffocating. The light from the lanterns does not penetrate far. It is absorbed by the rough bark of the trees and the deep drifts of snow. The world beyond the path is a mystery, a void of black and gray. We can hear things in the woods, the snap of a frozen branch, the soft thud of falling snow, the rustle of some unseen animal moving away from our approach. But we see nothing. We are the intruders here, loud and clumsy, disrupting the ancient silence of the winter woods. The native inhabitants, the owls, the foxes, the hares, are invisible, watching us with eyes adapted to the dark, waiting for us to pass, waiting for the silence to return. The lead wagon hits a root hidden beneath the snow. The jolt sends a shudder through the frame, a loud crack that sounds like a gunshot in the quiet woods. The horses stumble, their hooves slipping on the hidden obstacle. The driver shouts, a guttural command to steady the team. The wagon lists to the side, dangerously close to tipping, before the wheels find purchase, and it rights itself with a heavy groan of timber. We stop for a heartbeat, watching, waiting to see if disaster has struck. The wheel holds. The axle holds. The wagon moves on. The tension releases, but the adrenaline leaves a bitter taste in the mouth. It is a reminder of the fragility of our situation. A broken wheel here would mean a halt. A halt would mean cold. Cold would mean death. The equation is simple, brutal, and always present. We continue through the twisted trees, the path winding and turning, following the contours of the land. We have lost all sense of direction. We could be walking in circles. We could be walking north, south, east, or west. It does not matter. The only direction is forward along the track beaten by the wagons. The compass in the mind has spun wildly and then stopped, frozen by the cold. We trust the guards trust the driver trusts the horses trust the ground. It is a chain of trust, as fragile as the ice on a pond. The cold seems to intensify in the forest, settling in the low places, trapped by the trees. It is a still, heavy cold that presses against the temples and creates a dull ache behind the eyes. The extremities, the fingers, the toes, the ears, have long since ceased to report their condition. They are silent, absent from the map of the body. The core is all that matters now, the furnace of the heart pumping thick, sluggish blood to the vital organs. We visualize the heart as a small, red coal glowing in the center of a block of ice. We must keep the coal burning. We must not let the ice touch it. We walk to fuel the fire. Every step is a stoker's shovel, feeding the flames. As we walk, the rhythmic motion induces a trance state. The mind detaches from the linear progression of time. Moments stretch into hours, hours compress into seconds. The visual field becomes a blur of repeating patterns: tree, snow, boot, back. Tree, snow, boot, back. It is a kaleidoscope of gray and white, turning slowly. We are no longer individuals with names and histories. We are components of the convoy, cells in a larger organism that is migrating across the frozen wastes. The man in front is me. I am the man behind. We are all the same man, walking the same path, feeling the same cold. This loss of self is comforting. It removes the burden of individual suffering. The pain is shared. The cold is shared. The fatigue is shared. We carry it together, distributed across 50 backs, lightened by the division. The forest begins to thin. The trees become more spaced out, larger, straighter. We are entering a grove of ancient pines, giants that have stood here for centuries. Their trunks are massive pillars of rough bark, dusted with snow. Their branches are high above, forming a canopy that blocks the sky, filtering the starlight and the aurora into a dim, diffused gloom. The ground here is flat and open between the trees, a carpet of pine needles buried under feet of snow. The acoustic quality of the space changes again. It is quieter here, the sound dampened by the massive trunks and the canopy above. The wind is just a whisper high in the branches, a distant ocean sound. The crunch of the boots is muffled, soft. It feels like entering a cathedral, a holy place of silence and cold. The lantern light reflects off the resinous bark of the pines, creating warm, amber highlights in the sea of blue shadows. We walk between the pillars of the pine cathedral, small and insignificant. The scale of the trees makes us feel like insects. The air is still and heavy with the scent of pine resin and frozen wood. It is a pleasant smell, a memory of life in the dead of winter. It triggers faint, fleeting images: a Christmas tree, a carpenter's shop, a walk in the woods in a milder season. But the cold quickly reclaims the mind, pushing the memories back into the dark recesses. This is not a place of celebration. It is a place of passage. We are passing through the Hall of the Giants, uninvited guests in their silent domain. The path leads us through the center of the grove, a straight line between the dark trunks. The symmetry is pleasing to the eye, a moment of order in the chaos of the wild. The guards relax slightly, the tension in their shoulders easing. The horses move with a smoother gait. The deep snow is more uniform here, predictable. We fall into a steady, unbroken rhythm. Crunch, crunch, crunch. It is a hypnotic beat, a lullaby of the march. The eyes grow heavy. The head nods. The body wants to lie down on the soft bed of snow between the roots of the great pines. It looks so inviting, so comfortable. To curl up, to close the eyes, to let the cold wrap its arms around you like a mother holding a child. It would be so easy, so peaceful. But the chain pulls, the metal bites. The man in front stumbles and recovers. The rhythm breaks and reforms. The dream is shattered. We are awake. We are walking. We are cold. The desire to sleep is pushed down, locked away in a box of iron will. Not yet, not now. We must walk. We must reach the end of the world. And the end of the world is not here. It is further on, deeper in the dark, further down the scroll of paper, past the trees, past the snow, past the silence. We keep walking, leaving the cathedral behind, moving back into the open, back into the wind, back into the night that has no end. The line of the convoy stretches out again as we leave the trees, entering a landscape that is darker, rougher, more broken. The smooth white sheet of the snow is disrupted by jagged rocks and deep shadows. The drawing becomes chaotic, the lines sharp and aggressive. The pencil presses harder on the paper, creating deep indentations, heavy blacks, stark contrasts. We are walking into a difficult place, a place of resistance. The wind returns with renewed fury, screaming across the broken ground, tearing at our clothes, pushing us back. But we do not stop. We lean forward, we bow our heads, we take another step, and another, and another. The sanctuary of the ancient pines is behind us now, a memory of stillness that recedes with every step into the jagged expanse of the gorge. We descend into a wound in the earth, a fracture where the tectonic plates once pulled apart, leaving behind a scar of raw, broken stone that the snow has failed to soften. The transition is abrupt. The soft, muffled silence of the needle-carpeted floor is replaced by the sharp, metallic clatter of boots striking frozen scree. The drawing changes style again. The soft, smudged pastels are put away, replaced by a stick of hard, black charcoal that scratches aggressively against the textured paper. The lines here are vertical and chaotic, cliffs of slate rising up on either side, blocking out the aurora, narrowing the sky to a jagged ribbon of stars directly overhead. The darkness in this canyon is absolute, a pooling of ink at the bottom of a well, disturbed only by the intrusion of our lanterns. The ground underfoot is treacherous. It is a graveyard of shale, loose plates of rock that slide and shift with the weight of the convoy. Each step is a negotiation. The boot comes down, the rock tilts, the ankle twists, the knee buckles. We correct, we balance, we move the other leg. The sound is a constant, grinding friction, stone rubbing against stone, a dry, dusty noise that seems out of place in this world of ice. It is the sound of geology, of erosion, of the slow disintegration of the mountains. The chains that bind us rattle against the rocks, snagging on sharp edges, jerking the line taut, pulling us sideways. The rhythm of the march is broken here, replaced by a stumbling, erratic progression. We are no longer a smooth snake gliding over the snow. We are a collection of disjointed parts, struggling to maintain cohesion. The wagons are the greatest concern in the gorge. The wheels, rimmed with iron, protest against the stone. They scrape and grind, sending vibrations up through the wood, through the chassis, into the supplies. The noise echoes off the canyon walls, magnified and distorted, sounding like the shrieks of dying animals. The horses are nervous. Their hooves scramble on the loose shale, sparks flying where iron shoes strike flint. The sparks are brief, orange scratches in the dark, gone before they can be registered, but they leave a lingering smell of sulfur that mixes with the scent of the horse's sweat. The guards walk alongside the wheels, hands on the spokes, pushing, guiding, their boots slipping on the rocks. It is a slow, agonizing descent, a fight against gravity and friction. The brake blocks on the rear wheels scream, a high-pitched wail that sets the teeth on edge, a sound of wood burning against iron. As we go deeper, the air changes. It becomes still, stagnant, heavy with the cold that sinks and settles in the low places. It is a damp cold, distinct from the dry bite of the wind on the plateau. It clings to the wool of our coats, turning the fibers stiff and heavy. It seeps into the boots, numbing the toes not with a sharp pain but with a dull, creeping paralysis. The breath hangs in the air longer here, trapped between the walls of the gorge. The convoy moves through a fog of its own respiration, a low-lying cloud that obscures the ground, making the footing even more uncertain. We walk through the mist, ghost figures emerging and vanishing, guided only by the sound of the man in front and the pull of the chain. At the bottom of the gorge lies the river. It is not flowing. It has been frozen solid for months, perhaps years. It is a ribbon of black ice winding its way through the wreckage of the canyon. The wind has swept it clean of snow, polishing the surface until it gleams like obsidian. It reflects the lantern light with a perfect, dark clarity, doubling the number of flames, creating an inverted world beneath our feet. We step onto the ice cautiously. The transition from the loose shale to the solid, slippery surface is jarring. The boots slide. We shuffle, keeping our feet flat, distributing the weight. The sound changes again. The grinding of the rock stops, replaced by the sharp, hollow clack of leather heels on hard ice. It is a lonely sound, echoing in the confined space. The ice is thick, a meter or more, but it is alive. As the weight of the wagons moves onto the riverbed, the ice groans. It is a deep, resonant sound, a booming that travels through the frozen water, vibrating up through the soles of our boots. It sounds like the heartbeat of a leviathan sleeping beneath the surface. Cracks shoot out from under the wheels, white lightning bolts in the black glass, shooting away into the darkness with sharp, pistol-shot reports. The horses shy, their eyes rolling, white showing in the gloom. The drivers soothe them with low, rumbling voices, urging them forward. We do not stop. To stop on the ice is to invite disaster. We must keep moving, keep the weight distributed, keep the momentum. We walk on the skin of the deep, separated from the freezing water by a layer of crystal that feels terrifyingly thin. Looking down into the ice, caught in the pool of lantern light, we can see things trapped in the depths. Bubbles of air, frozen in their ascent, suspended like pearls in a dark gel. Weeds, long strands of green turned black by the lack of light, waving in a current that no longer moves. Stones, perfectly preserved on the riverbed, magnified by the lens of the ice. It is a museum of the drowned, a silent gallery of things that have stopped moving. We walk over them, trespassers walking on the ceiling of their world. The visual texture is smooth, glossy, contrasted against the rough, matte finish of the canyon walls. It is a moment of high contrast, of deep blacks and sharp, specular highlights. The lanterns swing, and the reflections swing with them, a dizzying dance of light and dark that makes it hard to tell which way is up. The river winds, following the path of least resistance through the rock. We follow the river. There is no other way. The walls rise sheer on either side, vertical slabs of granite glazed with ice falls. These frozen waterfalls hang like curtains of white lace, suspended in midair, arrested in their fall by the grip of the winter. They are beautiful and terrible, immense sculptures of ice that glitter in the peripheral light. Some are massive, thick pillars of blue ice that look strong enough to support the sky. Others are delicate, fragile fringes of icicles that look as if they would shatter at a touch. We pass beneath them, small and fragile, aware of the immense weight hanging above our heads. A single vibration, a single shift in temperature, could bring tons of ice crashing down. But the cold holds them fast. The glue of the frost is strong. The convoy stretches out along the river, a thin line of warmth in a valley of cold. The dampness here is pervasive. Frost begins to form on the eyelashes, binding them together. Blinking becomes a conscious effort, a momentary blindness as the ice seals the lids. We have to rub our eyes with the rough wool of the mittens to clear the vision, leaving red, raw skin around the sockets. The moisture from our breath freezes on our scarves, turning the fabric into a hard shell that chafes the chin. We are being encased in our own exhalations, trapped in a mask of ice. The sensation is claustrophobic, a slow suffocation by the elements, but we breathe, we walk, we endure. The lungs burn with the cold air, a sharp metallic taste that never fades. The winding of the river seems endless. Each bend reveals only another stretch of black ice, another wall of rock, another curtain of frozen water. Time loses its linearity here. There is only the repetition of the curve, the slide of the boot, the swing of the lantern. We could be walking in a circle, trapped in a loop of frozen geology. The mind plays tricks in the monotony. Patterns emerge in the rock faces, figures, buildings, that vanish when looked at directly. The sound of the wind, high above the canyon rim, sounds like distant voices, a choir singing a mournful dirge. We lower our heads, focusing on the ice, ignoring the hallucinations of fatigue. The ice is real. The cold is real. The chain is real. Suddenly, the lead guard halts. The signal ripples back. We stop, sliding slightly on the slick surface. The silence rushes in, amplified by the acoustics of the gorge. The booming of the ice settles into a low, intermittent creaking. We wait. Ahead, the river widens, spreading out into a frozen marshland where reeds poke through the ice like stubble on a dead face. The walls of the canyon recede, opening up to the sky again. We have reached the end of the gorge. But the way forward is blocked by a debris field, fallen trees, boulders, and hummocks of ice pushed up by the pressure of the freezing water. It is a chaos of shapes, a barricade of nature. The guards move forward, lanterns held high, scouting a path through the labyrinth. We stand and wait, the cold seeping up through the soles of the boots. This is the danger of the pause. The heat generated by the march dissipates rapidly. The blood begins to cool. The extremities begin to tingle, then go numb. We stomp our feet, a rhythmic thudding on the ice, trying to keep the circulation moving. The sound is dull, heavy. The horses stomp too, their breath clouding the air. We are a cluster of life, huddled together against the encroaching entropy. The command comes. We move. The path through the debris is narrow and twisting. We have to step over logs that are slick with frost, climb over boulders that are covered in verglas. The wagons struggle. The drivers shout, whipping the horses, urging them to pull the heavy loads over the obstacles. The wheels bounce and slam, the wood groaning. It is a violent, jerky progress. Men slip, falling hard on the ice, dragged for a few feet by the chain before they can scramble back up. Bruises form instantly, dark blossoms of pain under the heavy coats, but there is no stopping. To stop is to block the line. To block the line is to be punished. We scramble, we slide, we push. We leave the riverbed, climbing up the bank on the far side. The slope is steep, covered in frozen mud and roots. The boots find better purchase here than on the ice, but the effort is greater. Gravity pulls at the back of the coat. The chain pulls at the waist. We lean forward, hands grasping at roots and rocks to haul ourselves up. The breath comes in ragged gasps, loud and harsh. The steam rises from the column, a chimney of heat in the cold night. The horses lunge, their powerful haunches bunching, hooves tearing at the frozen earth. The wagons tilt back, the contents shifting with a heavy thud. We push from behind, hands against the cold wood, adding our meager strength to the effort. It is a collective heave, a singular moment of exerted will against the passive resistance of the slope. At the top of the bank, we emerge onto a new plain. The transition is as stark as the entry into the gorge. The walls fall away. The sky opens up, vast and terrifyingly empty. The wind returns, greeting us with a slap of icy air that strips away the lingering warmth of the exertion. We are back on the flat, back in the wind, back in the nothingness. The texture of the ground changes to a hard, crusty snow, wind-packed and brittle. The drawing style returns to the soft, blurred lines of the blowing drift. The sharp chaos of the gorge is behind us, replaced by the smooth, relentless monotony of the tundra. We reform the line. The wagons settle onto their wheels. The horses lower their heads. We check the person in front, the person behind. The chain is intact. The convoy is intact. We begin to walk again. The rhythm reasserts itself, but it is slower now, heavier. The passage through the gorge has taken a toll. The reserves of energy are lower. The cold has burrowed deeper. The mind is duller. The landscape ahead is a flat, gray sheet of paper waiting to be written on by our footprints. We walk into it, small dark marks on a vast white page. The distance to the horizon is impossible to judge. It could be 5 miles, it could be 500. There are no landmarks here, only the curvature of the earth and the dusting of stars. The aurora has faded, leaving the sky a uniform, heavy slate. The lantern light seems smaller in this open space, a fragile candle in a hurricane. We feel exposed, vulnerable. The gorge was a trap, but it was also a shelter. Here, there is nowhere to hide. The wind comes from all directions, swirling and eddying, looking for a way in. We tighten the scarves. We hunch the shoulders. We withdraw into the shell of the coat. The sound of the march on this hard snow is a dry, crunching noise like walking on sugar. It is a repetitive, hypnotic sound. Crunch, crunch, crunch. It fills the ears, blocking out the wind, blocking out thought. It becomes the only reality. The world is reduced to the sound of the crunch and the feel of the cold. Memories of the gorge, the black ice, the towering walls, the frozen waterfalls begin to fade, taking on the quality of a dream. Did we really walk on water? Did we really see the bubbles trapped in the ice? It doesn't matter. All that matters is the snow ahead. We pass a solitary tree, dead and bleached white by the wind, standing alone in the waste. It is twisted into a spiral like a piece of driftwood cast up on a beach. It is a sculpture of agony frozen in time. We pass it without looking up. It is just another shape in the dark. We are too tired to wonder how it got there or why it died. We are only concerned with not joining it. We walk past it, leaving it to its lonely vigil. The shadow of the convoy passes over it, briefly engulfing it in darkness. And then we are gone, moving on, leaving the tree to the wind and the silence. The cold begins to affect the perception of time. Intervals between steps seem to stretch out. The foot is in the air for a long time. The ground rushes up to meet it. The impact sends a shockwave up the leg. Then the pause, then the lift. It is a slow-motion film playing at half speed. The mind wanders, drifting away from the body, floating above the convoy, looking down at the line of black dots crawling across the white. It is a peaceful perspective, detached and cool. But the jerk of the chain brings us back to the pain, back to the cold, back to the walk. We are walking towards the dawn, though there is no sign of it yet. The night is deep and settled. The darkness is a physical weight pressing down on the shoulders. We carry the night on our backs. We carry the silence in our hearts. We are the convoy. We are the walkers. We are the ink that never runs dry. We walk. The horizon has been erased. In this new expanse, there is no dividing line between the earth and the sky. They have fused into a single, seamless entity of pale, suffocating gray. We are walking inside a cloud, or perhaps inside a pearl, suspended in a medium that lacks depth or definition. The concept of distance has become obsolete. There is no far and no near, only the here of the boot striking the snow and the there of the vague, shifting mist that swallows the man 3 paces ahead. The visual texture of our journey has softened. The sharp, aggressive charcoal lines of the gorge replaced by a smudged, indistinct wash of white pastel on gray paper. The world is featureless, a blank canvas that refuses to accept the mark of our passing. The wind, which had screamed and torn at us in the open, has dropped to a low, ominous drone, a vibration that is felt in the teeth more than heard in the ears. It is the sound of heavy air moving slowly, a massive, invisible displacement of atmosphere that pushes against us with the steady, relentless pressure of a tide. We move through this void with the mechanical persistence of clockwork figures. The rhythm of the march has settled into a slow, grinding cadence. There is no variation in the step. Lift the knee, heavy with the weight of the frozen wool. Swing the leg, fighting the resistance of the thick coat. Plant the foot, feeling the crust of the snow break and then compress. Shift the weight. Repeat. It is a cycle of exertion and release that has been etched into the muscle memory, bypassing the conscious mind entirely. The body knows what to do. The mind is free to float, untethered in the gray silence. Thoughts are slow, viscous things, forming and dissolving like the mist around us. We think of warmth not as a memory but as an abstract concept, a theoretical state of being that exists in another universe. Here, there is only the gradient of cold, from the stinging bite on the cheeks to the dull, throbbing ache in the bones, to the terrifying absence of sensation in the extremities. The ice fog has descended upon the convoy, a thick, freezing vapor that clings to everything it touches. It is not like the wet mist of the lowlands. This is a suspension of microscopic ice crystals, a diamond dust that glitters in the weak light of the lanterns. It coats the eyebrows and the lashes in a heavy rime, sealing the eyes shut if we blink for too long. We walk with heads bowed, peering through the narrow slits of our frozen eyelids, watching the ground immediately in front of our feet. Snow here is different again. It is not the deep powder of the valley or the slick ice of the river. It is a hard, wind-packed slab sculpted into endless ripples and ridges that look like the surface of a frozen sea. The boots make a dry, squeaking sound on this surface, a high-pitched protest of rubber and leather against the cold. It is a sound that sets the nerves on edge, a constant, rhythmic friction that wears away at the patience. Squeak, step, squeak, step. It is the only conversation we have. The lantern light is diffused by the fog, creating glowing orbs of amber that float in the gray void. We cannot see the flame, only the halo of light that surrounds it. These halos are the only points of reference in the whiteout. We follow the glow of the lantern ahead, a moth-like compulsion that overrides all other instincts. If the light were to go out, we would stop. We would stand there in the dark until the cold claimed us. There is no path to follow, no tracks to guide us. The wind erases our footprints seconds after we make them. We are walking into the unknown, guided only by the blind faith that the guards know where we are going. But looking at their hunched, snow-covered forms, it is hard to believe they know anything more than we do. They are just as lost, just as cold, just as trapped in the rhythm of the march. The chain that binds us is heavy with frost. The metal links have become thick with accumulated ice, doubling their weight. The chain drags in the snow between us, leaving a shallow furrow that is instantly filled by the drifting crystals. We can feel the movements of the others through the iron. A stumble, a hesitation, a slip. It is all transmitted through the metal, a tactile telegraph of exhaustion. When the man in front slows, the chain goes slack, bowing into the snow. When he speeds up, it snaps taut, a sudden jerk at the waist that pulls us forward. We are linked not just by the iron, but by the shared misery, the shared struggle to keep moving. We are a single entity, a segmented worm crawling blindly across the ice. The individuality of the prisoner has been stripped away, leaving only the function of the walker. The silence of the fog is heavy, oppressive. It muffles the sound of the wagons, reducing the groan of the wood and the creak of the wheels to a dull, distant thumping. The horses loom out of the mist like prehistoric beasts, their shapes exaggerated and distorted by the vapor. Their breath comes in great billowing clouds that merge with the fog, thickening the air around them. We can hear the wet, laboring sound of their respiration, the fluid rattling in their lungs. They are tired. We can see it in the way they hang their heads, in the slow, dragging placement of their hooves. Their coats are matted with ice, turning them into statues of frozen mud and hair. The drivers do not use the whips anymore. There is no point. The horses are giving everything they have. To ask for more would be to ask for death. We pass a shape in the snow, a dark mound that might be a rock or a bush or something else. In the fog, it is impossible to tell. It sits there, silent and still, a disruption in the smooth texture of the landscape. As we draw level with it, the lantern light catches the edge of a wooden crate half buried in the drift. It is a remnant of some previous passage, a piece of cargo abandoned to lighten a load. We stare at it as we pass, wondering what is inside. Food, blankets, tools, it doesn't matter. We cannot stop. We cannot break the line. The crate slides away into the mist behind us, a lost treasure in the ocean of snow. It is a reminder that we are not the first to walk this way, and that the path is littered with the failures of those who came before. The cold has a taste here. It tastes of old pennies and ozone. It coats the back of the throat with a metallic tang that makes it hard to swallow. The saliva thickens, becoming a glue that sticks the tongue to the roof of the mouth. We try to generate moisture to clear the throat, but the body is hoarding its fluids, retreating into the core. The thirst is a constant companion, a dull ache in the belly that rivals the hunger. But to eat snow is to invite the cold inside, to lower the core temperature. We know this. We have been told this. So we walk with dry mouths, dreaming of hot tea, of warm broth, of anything liquid and heated. The image of a steaming cup is a torture, a hallucination that dances just out of reach in the swirling fog. The texture of the air changes as the temperature drops further. The fog begins to crystallize, falling out of the air as a fine, glittering dust. The visibility improves slightly, the gray curtain lifting to reveal a landscape of utter desolation. We are on a vast, flat plain of ice and snow, stretching in every direction to a horizon that is still invisible in the gloom. The sky above is a heavy, bruised purple, the stars hidden behind a veil of high-altitude clouds. There is no moon. The only light comes from the lanterns and the faint, ghostly luminescence of the snow itself. It is a landscape of the dead, a place where life has no business being. The silence returns, sharper now, stripped of the muffling blanket of the fog. The sound of the boots is loud, a crisp, brittle crunch that echoes in the stillness. We begin to hallucinate. It is a common side effect of the cold and the exhaustion. The mind, starved of sensory input, begins to manufacture its own. We see shapes in the periphery of the vision, shadow people walking alongside the convoy, silent observers who vanish when we turn to look at them. We hear voices in the wind, whispers that sound like our names, calling us to stop, to rest, to come into the warmth. It is the siren song of hypothermia, the brain's last-ditch attempt to make the end pleasant. We shake our heads, trying to clear the cobwebs. We focus on the pain. The pain is real. The pain is the anchor. As long as we feel the pain, we are alive. The moment the pain stops, the moment the cold feels warm, that is the moment of danger. That is the moment we must fight the hardest. The wagon ahead lurches as it hits a patch of rough ice. The jolt sends a shockwave through the frame, dislodging a cascade of snow from the canvas cover. The driver curses, a low, guttural sound that is swallowed by the vastness of the plain. The horses stumble, their hooves scrabbling for purchase. We watch with detached interest. If the wagon breaks, we stop. If we stop, we freeze. It is a simple equation, but part of us, the part that is tired beyond words, almost hopes for it. A breakdown would mean an end to the walking. It would mean the end. And the end, whatever it brings, seems preferable to the infinite duration of the now. But the wagon holds. The wheels keep turning. The convoy keeps moving. The hope dies, replaced by the dull acceptance of the march. The surface of the snow is etched with the wind's handwriting, sastrugi, sharp ridges of hard-packed snow that lie parallel to the prevailing wind. They are like frozen waves, a sea of whitecaps turned to stone. Walking across them is a challenge. The ridges are hard as concrete polished slick by the wind. The troughs between them are filled with softer drift. We step up, slide, step down, sink. It is an uneven, jarring rhythm that wreaks havoc on the knees and the hips. The body is constantly adjusting, constantly compensating for the shifting terrain. The muscles burn with a slow, acidic fire. The joints grind, dry and brittle. The spine compresses under the weight of the head, which feels too heavy for the neck to support. We let it hang forward, the chin resting on the chest, the eyes fixed on the heels of the man in front. The man in front of me is wearing boots that are 2 sizes too big. I can tell by the way the leather folds around the ankle, by the way his foot slides inside the boot with every step. He has wrapped the tops of the boots with rags to keep the snow out, but the rags are frozen solid, encrusted with ice. His coat is torn at the hem, a jagged rip that flutters in the wind. I watch that tear. It flips back and forth, a hypnotic metronome. Left, right, left, right. It is the only thing in the world that moves other than our legs. I know every thread of that tear. I know the pattern of the weave. I know the shade of gray of the wool. It is my entire universe. If he were to fall, I would trip over him. If he were to stop, I would walk into him. I am tethered to him not just by the chain, but by the necessity of his existence. He breaks the wind for me. He packs the snow for me. He is my shield and my guide. The guards are changing the shift. We do not stop for this. The fresh guards who have been riding in the wagons climb down, their movements stiff and clumsy. The exhausted guards climb up, their bodies sagging with relief. It is a slow, dangerous transfer. A slip here would mean being crushed under the wheels. We watch, envious of the men climbing into the relative shelter of the canvas. Even the cold, hard bed of the wagon seems like a palace compared to the exposure of the march. But we are the cargo that walks. There is no room for us in the wagons. We must carry ourselves. The fresh guards take the lanterns, the lights swinging wildly during the exchange. For a moment, the shadows dance and lengthen, creating a flicker of motion in the static landscape. Then the rhythm settles again. The new guards fall into step. The march continues. The wind begins to shift, coming now from the side, driving across the plain with renewed vigor. It picks up the loose surface snow and hurls it at us, a ground blizzard that stays below the waist. Our legs are walking through a river of flowing white, while our torsos remain in the clear air above. It is a surreal sensation, as if we are wading through a stream of milk. The snow hisses as it flows over our boots, a sound like sand pouring onto metal. It fills the cuffs of our trousers, packing in tight against the socks, melting slightly from the body heat, and then refreezing into rings of ice around the ankles. It is a new torture, a fresh source of misery to focus on. We try to kick the snow away, but it is relentless. It flows around us, over us, through us. We are obstacles in the current, stones in the stream of the wind. We are passing a region of thermal vents, rare and strange in this frozen land. Small plumes of steam rise from fissures in the ice, ghostly pillars that twist and fade in the wind. The ground around the vents is stained yellow and orange with sulfur, a shocking splash of color in the monochrome world. The smell is pungent, a rotten egg stench that cuts through the sterile scent of the ozone. We walk through the clouds of steam, feeling a momentary phantom warmth that is instantly replaced by a flash freeze as the moisture settles on our clothes. The steam coats us in a new layer of frost, turning us into white statues. The guards hurry us past this place. It is dangerous ground. The ice is thin near the vents, eaten away from below by the heat. We can hear the bubbling of mud and water deep beneath the surface, a gurgling, digestive sound that speaks of a hunger in the earth. We walk lightly, holding our breath, fearing the sudden crack that would send us plunging into the boiling dark. Once past the vents, the cold seems to double in intensity. The brief exposure to the moisture of the steam has made our clothes damp, and now they are freezing hard. The fabric becomes armor, rigid and unyielding. The sleeves of the coat are like pipes of lead. The trousers are like sheets of iron. Movement becomes a battle against the casing of our own garments. We are knights in armor of ice, marching to a crusade that has no purpose. The stiffness limits the range of motion. The stride shortens. The pace slows. The convoy is losing momentum, grinding down like a machine running out of oil. The guards shout, their voices thin and reedy in the wind, urging us on. But the shouts are meaningless. We are moving as fast as the ice will allow. The darkness of the sky is beginning to lift, not with the sun, but with the arrival of the false dawn. A band of faint, sickly pearl-gray light appears on the horizon, illuminating the underside of the cloud deck. It brings no warmth, only a change in the quality of the gloom. The world transforms from a charcoal drawing to a silver point etching. The details of the snowscape become sharper, clearer. We can see the vastness of the plain now, and it is terrifying. It stretches on forever, a white desert with no oasis. The realization of our insignificance hits us with the force of a physical blow. We are nothing. We are dust on the snow. The silence is vast, indifferent, eternal. It swallows the sound of our passage without a ripple. We are walking towards a line of jagged shapes on the horizon. Mountains, glaciers, ruins. It is impossible to tell. They are just dark teeth biting into the gray sky. They seem to retreat as we approach, keeping their distance, mocking our progress. We fix our eyes on them, needing a goal, a destination. Even if it is a false one, we need something to walk towards. The concept of endless is too heavy for the human mind to carry. We need boundaries. We need ends. So we pretend the dark shapes are the end. We pretend that when we reach them, we will stop. We know it is a lie, but it is a necessary lie, a lie that keeps the feet moving. The breathing of the man next to me has changed. It is a rattle now, a wet, bubbling sound deep in the chest. He is failing. I can see it in his posture and the way he leans heavily on the chain. He is no longer lifting his feet, he is dragging them, plowing 2 deep furrows in the snow. I do not look at him, I cannot help him. If I look at him, I might acknowledge his humanity, and that would make his inevitable fall unbearable. I stare ahead, I focus on the rhythm. Crunch, drag, crunch, drag. The sound of his failure becomes part of the soundtrack of the march. It is a countdown. We all hear it. We all know what it means. But the line must keep moving. The convoy cannot stop for one broken cog. The wind drops suddenly, leaving a vacuum of silence that is even more disturbing than the roar. In the stillness, the sounds of the convoy are magnified. The creak of the leather, the jingle of the harness, the heavy, labored breathing of 60 men and beasts. It sounds loud, obscene in the quiet of the wilderness. We feel exposed, as if the silence is a spotlight trained on us. We wait for the wind to return, for the noise to cover us again. We are afraid of the quiet. The quiet allows us to think. And thinking is the enemy. Thinking leads to despair. We want the noise, we want the wind, we want the numbness. And then, as if in answer to a prayer, the wind returns. It starts as a whisper, a soft caress of the snow, lifting small spirals of white dust. Then it grows, swelling into a moan, then a howl, then a scream. It hits us from the front, a solid wall of air that stops the convoy in its tracks for a heartbeat. We lean into it. We lower our heads. We accept the burden. The world is back to normal. The struggle continues. The drawing is filled in with heavy strokes of gray and white. The figures are small, dark, bent against the gale. Walking, always walking, walking to the end of the world. The transition from the deep, suffocating charcoal of night to the pale, bruised slate of day is not an event, but a slow, agonizing erosion of darkness. There is no sunrise here, no sudden cresting of a golden orb to banish the shadows. Instead, the sky merely lightens, turning from black to a heavy, industrial gray that presses down upon the earth with the weight of a lead ceiling. The lantern light, once a fierce and necessary contrast to the void, becomes anemic, a sickly yellow stain against the monochrome surroundings. The guards do not extinguish the flames. The oil is precious, but the psychological warmth of the fire is more valuable than the fuel. We watch the flames flicker behind the dirty glass, small trapped spirits dancing in their iron cages, their relevance fading as the ambient light slowly reveals the full desolation of the landscape we have been traversing blindly for hours. We have reached the jagged shapes that taunted us from the horizon. They are not mountains, nor are they ruins. They are monoliths of black basalt, thrust up from the earth in some ancient, violent convulsion of the crust, now frozen into silent submission. They stand like sentinels of a forgotten army, irregular columns of dark stone that tear at the wind as it passes. The snow does not cling to their vertical faces. It is scoured away, leaving the rock bare and stark against the white ground. The visual texture of the scene shifts abruptly. The soft, blended pastels of the open plain give way to hard, vertical strokes of graphite. The lines are sharp, aggressive, cutting into the softness of the snow. We walk between these giants, feeling small and ephemeral. They have stood here for eons, watching the ice advance and retreat, indifferent to the passage of time. We are just another momentary disturbance, a line of ants crawling through a graveyard of gods. The wind here is treacherous. It is channeled and compressed by the monoliths, accelerating through the gaps with a high-pitched harmonic screaming. It strikes us from unexpected angles, buffeting the wagons and staggering the horses. One moment it is a hand pushing against the chest. The next, it is a fist striking the shoulder. We lean into the gusts, our bodies angled like leaning posts, constantly adjusting our center of gravity to remain upright. The chains connecting us swing and clatter against the rock, a discordant chime that echoes through the stone corridor. The metal rings with a clear, sharp tone, a sound of hardness striking hardness. It is a lonely music, devoid of melody, composed only of impact and cold. The ground between the monoliths is uneven, a chaotic floor of frozen scree and wind-polished ice. The boots struggle for purchase. We slip on the ice, slide on the loose stones. The ankles turn, sending sharp jolts of pain up the shin, a bright, hot sensation that fades quickly into the dull, throbbing background noise of the cold. The rhythm of the march is broken, replaced by a stuttering, halting progression. Step, slip, catch. Step, slide, hold. The convoy moves like a wounded animal, limping through the stone forest. The wagons groan under the strain, the wood twisting as the wheels traverse the uneven ground. We hear the sharp crack of a spoke stressing, the deep thud of an axle hitting a rock. The drivers are silent, their faces hidden behind scarves, their hands wrapped in reins that are stiff as wire. They guide the horses with subtle shifts of weight, trusting the animals to find the path where the eyes see only confusion. As we pass deep into the field of monoliths, the light changes again. The gray sky is obscured by the towering rocks, creating a tunnel of permanent twilight. The shadows here are deep and blue, pooling at the base of the stones like spilled ink. The lantern light becomes significant once more, catching the facets of the basalt, reflecting off the mica and quartz embedded in the stone. It creates a glittering, sparkling effect, as if the walls are studded with diamonds. For a moment, it is beautiful. The mind, starved for beauty, latches onto the sparkles, creating fantasies of treasure, of halls of mountain kings, of places where warmth and wealth go hand in hand. But the wind quickly strips away the illusion. The sparkles are cold. The stone is cold. The wealth is nothing but dust and ice. We are hungry. The hunger is not a sharp pang in the stomach. It has passed beyond that stage. It is a hollowness, a vacuum in the center of the body that seems to be pulling the extremities inward. The body is consuming itself. We can feel the muscles shrinking, the fat dissolving, the very marrow of the bones being tapped for energy. The cold accelerates the process, demanding fuel that is not there. We dream of food as we walk, not complex meals, but simple, dense things. A loaf of heavy black bread, a thick slab of salted pork, a bowl of porridge with a lump of butter melting in the center. The images are vivid, almost hallucinatory. We can smell the yeast, taste the salt, feel the texture of the grain on the tongue. The mouth waters, a cruel biological joke, producing saliva that freezes at the corners of the lips. We swallow the ice, feeding the hunger with cold. The man in front of me stumbles. It is not a slip on the ice, but a failure of the legs. His knees buckle and he goes down, hitting the ground with a soft, heavy thud. The chain pulls taut instantly, jerking the man behind him forward and pulling me back. The line stops. The sudden cessation of movement is shocking. The silence rushes in, filling the space left by the crunch of boots. We stand there, swaying, looking down at the fallen figure. He is a dark bundle of rags on the white snow. He does not move. The wind whistles over him, lifting the edge of his coat, exposing the worn fabric of his trousers. We do not rush to help. We do not have the energy for sudden compassion. We wait. The guard approaches, a slow, deliberate movement. He prods the bundle with the toe of his boot. "Up," he says. The word is flat, devoid of anger or sympathy. It is just a command. The bundle moves. A hand encased in a mitten that looks like a boxing glove pushes against the snow. A head lifts, the face a mask of frost and grime. He struggles, slipping on the ice, his breath coming in short, panicked gasps. He knows the rule. If he does not get up, he will be left. And being left means the end. He finds a reserve of strength somewhere in the depleted storehouse of his body. He rises, first to his knees, then to his feet, swaying like a drunkard. He nods to the guard. The guard turns away. The line moves. We walk. The incident is over. It is filed away in the memory, another scene in the long, slow tragedy of the march. But the fear remains, a cold sliver of ice in the heart. Who will be next? Will it be me? We leave the monoliths behind, emerging onto a vast, sloping plain that tilts downward towards a distant, unseen valley. The wind is behind us now, pushing us forward, assisting our descent. It should be easier, but the downhill gradient is deceptive. It requires a constant braking action, a resistance against gravity that burns the quadriceps and strains the knees. The toes are jammed into the front of the boots, the nails bruising against the leather. The weight of the pack, the weight of the coat, the weight of the chain, it all pushes us down the hill, threatening to turn the walk into a run, the run into a tumble. We lean back, digging the heels into the snow, fighting the momentum. The rhythm changes to a heavy, jarring cadence. Stomp, break, stomp, break. It is a controlled fall, miles long. The landscape here is featureless again, a return to the blank page. But the texture of the snow has changed. It is wind-scoured, hard, and rippled with sastrugi that run perpendicular to our path. We are walking across a washboard. The vibrations travel up the legs, rattling the teeth, shaking the vision. The wagons have a terrible time of it. They bounce and shudder, the wheels leaving the ground and slamming back down with bone-jarring force. The supplies inside shift and crash. We can hear the clatter of metal pots, the thud of wooden crates. The noise is constant, abrasive. It prevents the mind from drifting. It keeps us anchored in the physical reality of the discomfort. We hate the noise. We hate the slope. We hate the snow. But hatred is an energy. It keeps us warm. It keeps us moving. To the right, a fissure opens in the ground, a deep crack in the ice that runs parallel to our path. We cannot see the bottom. It is a slash of absolute black against the gray-white of the snow. A mist rises from it, a faint, sulfuric vapor that hints at volcanic activity deep below. The fissure is a reminder of the instability of the land. We are walking on a crust over fire, a thin layer of ice over a molten core. The contrast is terrifying, the freezing wind above, the burning earth below. We walk the tightrope between them, balanced on the edge of two different kinds of death. The guard steers the convoy away from the edge, his movements jerky and nervous. He does not trust the ice here. Neither do we. We watch the crack with morbid fascination, imagining the fall, the heat, the darkness. As the day wears on, the light begins to fail again. The brief gray interlude of day is ending, sliding back into the charcoal embrace of the afternoon. The transition is seamless, a gradual dimming of the world until the horizon once again vanishes into the gloom. The temperature drops. We can feel it happening, a physical tightening of the air, a sharpening of the wind. The moisture in the nose freezes instantly. The eyelashes become heavy with rime. The breath turns to ice crystals before it leaves the mouth. We are entering the deep freeze, the time of day when the planet turns its back on the sun and stares into the infinite cold of space. The mental state of the convoy shifts with the light. During the gray hours, there was a certain alertness, a focus on the visual details of the rock and the snow. Now, as the darkness returns, the mind retreats inward. The hallucinations return. I see a fire burning on the snow ahead, a warm, inviting campfire with figures sitting around it. I can smell the smoke, hear the crackle of the wood. I walk towards it, my heart lifting with hope. But as I get closer, the fire resolves into a patch of orange lichen on a rock, illuminated by the swinging lantern. The figures are just shadows cast by the uneven ground. The disappointment is crushing, a physical weight that settles on the shoulders. I close my eyes for a second, trying to reset the brain, trying to banish the ghosts. But they are persistent. They wait in the peripheral vision, promising warmth, promising rest. We pass a frozen stream, a ribbon of white weaving through the dark landscape. The water is locked beneath feet of ice, silent and still. But in places, the wind has swept the snow away, revealing the black ice beneath. It looks like polished onyx, a dark mirror reflecting the nothingness of the sky. We walk carefully across it, the boots slipping on the slick surface. The sound of the march changes to a sharp, hollow clack, clack, clack. It is the sound of skeletons dancing. We are careful not to stamp, not to shock the ice. We glide, shuffling the feet, keeping the weight low. The fear of breaking through is always there, a primal terror of the cold water. We imagine the shock, the gasp, the darkness closing over the head. It keeps us alert, keeps the adrenaline trickling into the blood, fighting off the lethargy. The guard at the rear of the convoy begins to sing. It is not a song of joy, but a low, mournful dirge in a language I do not understand. The melody is simple, repetitive, rising and falling with the rhythm of the wind. It sounds like a prayer or a lament for the dead. The voice is rough, cracked by the cold and the smoke, but it carries a strange, haunting beauty. The sound drifts over the convoy, weaving through the noise of the wind and the wagons. It gives us a tempo, a beat to walk to. We fall into step with the song. Left, right, left, right. The music binds us together, connecting the guard to the prisoner, the living to the dying. For a while, we are not just a convoy. We are a choir of silent listeners, marching to the beat of a sad song at the end of the world. The song ends as abruptly as it began, swallowed by a gust of wind. The silence that follows is deeper, heavier. We miss the voice. It was a connection to humanity, a reminder that we are not just animals. But now it is gone, and we are left with the crunch of the boots and the creak of the leather. We trudge on, the hours bleeding into one another. Is it evening? Is it night? It doesn't matter. There is only the walk. The destination is a myth. The journey is the reality. We are the walkers in the dark. We begin to ascend again, climbing out of the valley we have spent hours traversing. The slope is steep, covered in deep, soft powder. The snow reaches the knees, a heavy, clinging resistance that saps the strength from the legs. We have to lift the knees high, dragging the feet through the drift. It is exhausting work. The breath comes in ragged gasps, searing the lungs. The sweat breaks out under the heavy coats, a dangerous moisture that will freeze the moment we stop. We push on, driven by the fear of stopping, the fear of the cold. The horses struggle, their flanks heaving, their nostrils flaring red in the lantern light. The drivers shout, their voices hoarse with fatigue. Heave, heave. We lean into the slope, hands on knees, pushing, climbing, fighting gravity. At the top of the rise, we pause for a moment to let the horses breathe. We look back at the way we have come. There is nothing to see. The valley is a pool of darkness, the monoliths hidden in the gloom. The path we made is already gone, erased by the wind. We have left no trace. It is as if we were never there. We turn our faces forward towards the new horizon. It is the same as the old one, dark, empty, cold, but we must walk towards it. There is no other choice. The The texture of the drawing is now heavy with charcoal, the paper saturated with black. The only light comes from the lanterns, small scratches of yellow pastel in the center of the dark mass. The figures are indistinct, blurs of gray shadow moving against the black background. The wind is the artist, smudging the lines, blending the forms, erasing the details. We are becoming part of the storm, part of the night. The boundaries between the self and the environment are dissolving. I am the snow. I am the wind. I am the cold. The cold is a sculptor. It is shaping us, paring away the unnecessary flesh, hardening the spirit, freezing the will into a diamond-hard point of determination. We are being refined, reduced to our essential elements. We are no longer men. We are vectors of movement, arrows pointing north. We walk because we are walkers. We endure because we are endurance. The logic is circular, unbreakable. We move into a narrow pass between two ridges of rock. The walls are close, blocking out the wind, creating a pocket of stillness. The silence here is profound. The only sound is the breathing of the convoy, a collective rasp that sounds like a single giant lung. The air is still and frigid, colder even than the wind-swept plain. It settles in the lungs like water. We walk through the pass, shadows in a canyon of shadows. The lantern light flickers on the walls, revealing veins of quartz that glitter like frozen lightning. It is a beautiful, deadly place. A tomb of stone and ice. We pass through it, respectful of the silence, afraid to wake the sleeping giants of the mountain. As we emerge from the pass, the wind returns, greeting us like an old enemy. It slaps the face, tears at the coat, pushes against the chest. We welcome it in a way. It is a sensation. It is real. It confirms we are still alive. We lower our heads and walk into the teeth of the gale. The next part of the journey lies ahead, a vast, unknown expanse of white waiting to be crossed. We step out onto the plain. The boot crunches. The chain rattles. The breath clouds. We walk. The darkness has gained a physical density, a weight that presses against the eyelids and settles into the folds of the heavy wool coats. We have entered a stretch of the journey where time seems to have pooled and frozen, much like the water in the ruts of the road behind us. The landscape is no longer a series of distinct features, ridges, valleys, trees, but a singular, overwhelming expanse of flatness. We are walking across a plateau that feels less like the surface of the earth and more like the bottom of a dried-up ocean, exposed to the vacuum of space. The visual style of our existence has shifted to the deepest, darkest shades of indigo and charcoal. The paper is saturated with pigment, leaving only the faintest scratches of white to define the ground beneath our boots. The lantern light is a desperate, orange smudge in the center of the composition, a small, trembling heart beating against the vast, cold ribcage of the night. The wind here does not gust, it flows. It is a constant, heavy stream of air that feels like water, pushing against us with a relentless hydraulic pressure. It carries with it the ice dust, the diamond-hard particles that have been scoured from the glaciers hundreds of miles to the north. These particles do not just sting, they erode. We can feel them wearing away the fibers of our scarves, smoothing the rough leather of our boots, polishing the exposed skin of the cheeks until it feels like parchment. We walk with our heads turned to the side, presenting the shoulder to the wind, hiding the face in the collar. The posture of the convoy is uniform, a line of 60 distinct figures all bent at the exact same angle of resistance, all leaning into the invisible current. To stand straight would be to fall. To stop would be to be swept away. The sound of the march has changed again. On the softer snow of the valley, it was a muffled crunch. Here, on the wind-hardened crust of the plateau, it is a sharp, brittle tearing sound. Each step breaks the surface tension of the snow, shattering the crust into dinner plate shards that slide away with a hiss. It sounds like walking on broken porcelain. The noise is constant, a rhythmic destruction of the pristine surface. Crash, hiss, crash, hiss. It is the only sound that competes with the drone of the wind. The wagons are silent in comparison, their wheels rolling over the hard pack with a low, rumbling vibration that is felt in the soles of the feet rather than heard. The grease in the axles has frozen into a stiff paste, increasing the friction, making the pull harder for the horses. We can see the strain in their gaits, the way their hooves strike the ground with a heavy, jarring impact, seeking traction on the slick, wind-polished ridges. We are walking through a field of sastrugi, wave-like ridges of hard snow carved by the prevailing wind. They are knee-high, sharp-edged, and hard as concrete. Navigating them is a torture for the ankles. We have to step over the crests and down into the troughs, a constant up and down motion that breaks the rhythm of the stride. The boots slip on the windward faces and punch through the softer leeward drifts. The chain jerks and snaps, transmitting the stumbles of one man to the entire line. We are puppets on a single string, dancing a clumsy, exhausted jig across the frozen waves. The muscles in the calves burn with a steady, acidic fire. The tendons behind the knees feel like wires pulled too tight, vibrating with every step. We focus on the ground, reading the texture of the snow and the flickering lantern light, looking for the flat spots, the safe places to place the foot. But there are no safe places. There is only the ice. The cold has penetrated deeper now. It has bypassed the defenses of the wool and the felt, seeping into the core. It feels like a slow stiffening of the internal organs, a sluggishness in the blood. The heart beats slower, a heavy, thudding rhythm that echoes in the ears. The thoughts are slow, viscous. We try to remember simple things, the name of a street, the face of a mother, the taste of bread, but they slide away, unable to find purchase in the frozen landscape of the mind. The only reality is the boot, the snow, the chain. We are becoming creatures of the immediate present. The past is a dream. The future is a myth. There is only the step, and the next step, and the cold. The lantern carried by the guard on the lead wagon begins to sputter. The flame, usually a steady teardrop of amber, jumps and flares, casting wild, erratic shadows across the snow. The wick is carbonized, or perhaps the oil is thickening in the cold. We watch it with a detached, morbid fascination. If it goes out, the darkness will be absolute. The guard curses, a low mumble lost to the wind, and stops the wagon. The convoy halts. The sudden lack of motion is physically painful. The momentum that was carrying us forward dissipates, leaving behind the dead weight of our own bodies. We stand there swaying while the guard climbs down. He opens the cage of the lantern, the metal screeching in the cold. For a moment the naked flame is exposed to the wind. It dances violently, threatening to extinguish, a small tongue of fire fighting for its life. The guard trims the wick with a gloved thumb, a dangerous, precise movement. He closes the cage. The light stabilizes. The wagon moves. We walk. The pause has cost us warmth. The layer of heated air trapped between the coat and the body has escaped, replaced by the fresh, biting cold of the plateau. We shiver violently, a deep skeletal trembling that shakes the chains. It takes 100 steps to generate enough heat to stop the shaking. 100 steps of misery. We count them. 1, 2, 3. The numbers are shapes in the mind, gray numerals floating in the dark. By 50, the shivering subsides to a dull ache. By 80, the numbness returns. By 100, we are back in the trance. The rhythm is re-established. The machine is running again. We pass a series of dark shapes protruding from the snow to our left. At first, they look like rocks, but as the lantern light washes over them, we see the texture of wood. They are the ribs of a wagon, an old ruin from some previous convoy, stripped of its canvas and its wheels, left to rot in the dry cold. The wood is gray and splintered, polished smooth by the wind. It looks like the skeleton of a great whale, beached on the white sand of the snow. We stare at it as we pass. It is a memento mori, a reminder of what happens when the wheels stop turning. Did they survive? Did they walk from here? Or are they still here, buried beneath the drifts, part of the geological strata of the plateau? We do not ask. The guard does not look. The horses do not shy. It is just another landmark in the void. The texture of the drawing changes as we cross a patch of clear ice, a frozen lake nestled in a depression on the plateau. The white pastel strokes disappear, replaced by the deep, glossy black of the charcoal. The surface reflects the stars, tiny pinpricks of hard white light trapped in the ice. We walk carefully, sliding the feet, afraid to lift the boot and break the contact. The sound is a hollow clack, 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 the sound of bone on stone. The chains drag across the ice with a hiss, like snakes following us. The reflections of the lanterns slide beneath our feet, ghost lights moving in the underworld. We feel suspended between two skies, one above and one below, walking on a thin membrane of reality. The ice groans under the weight of the wagons, a deep, resonant booming that travels for miles. It sounds like the earth is complaining, a stomach rumble of the planet. We hold our breath, waiting for the crack, the splash, the end. But the ice holds. It is thick, ancient, solid. As we leave the lake and climb back onto the snow, the fatigue hits a new level. It is no longer just tiredness, it is a dissociation. The mind separates from the body. I am floating 10 feet above the convoy, looking down at the line of black dots. I see myself, a hunched figure in a gray coat, struggling up the bank. I feel a vague sense of pity for him, for that poor creature trapped in the cold. He looks so small, so fragile. I watch him stumble, watch him recover. It is an interesting show. Then a sharp jerk of the chain snaps me back into the body. The cold rushes in. The pain in the legs returns. The perspective slams back to eye level. I am him. He is me. We are walking. The guard at the rear is smoking a pipe. The smell of the tobacco drifts forward, a rich, earthy scent that is shockingly out of place in this sterile environment. It smells of dried leaves, of fire, of a study with leather chairs. It triggers a cascade of sensory memories so vivid they hurt. I remember a room with a rug. I remember a clock ticking on a mantelpiece. I remember the scratch of wool socks on a wooden floor. The memories are warm, colored in sepia and gold. They clash with the blue-gray reality of the march. I try to hold on to the smell, to inhale it deep into the lungs, to capture the essence of the tobacco. But the wind takes it. It swirls away into the darkness, leaving only the smell of the ozone and the sweating horses. The loss of the scent feels like a tragedy. Tears prick the eyes and freeze instantly. We are walking through a region where the snow is forming strange crystalline structures. They look like flowers made of glass, delicate petals of frost growing out of the hard pack. They crunch under our boots with a sound like breaking sugar. It feels like a crime to destroy them, these only beautiful things in a world of ugly endurance. But we cannot step around them. There are too many. We trample the garden of ice, leaving a trail of crushed crystal behind us. The wagons crush them, grinding them back into powder. The destruction is absolute. We are the destroyers, the heavy, blunt instruments of necessity moving through a gallery of fragile art. The sky begins to display a faint, milky luminosity. It is not the dawn nor the aurora, but ice blink, the reflection of the snow on the low clouds. It creates a uniform, shadowless light that eliminates depth perception. The ground becomes a flat white sheet. We cannot see the ridges or the drifts until we trip over them. It is a disorienting, nauseating visual field. We are walking inside a ping-pong ball. The eyes strain to find a focal point, something dark to latch onto. We focus on the back of the coat in front, on the black iron of the chain. These are the anchors. Everything else is a wash of white noise. The brain begins to fill in the blanks, creating phantom shapes in the mist. A house, a tree, a standing figure. We blink and they are gone. We blink and they are back. We learn to ignore the ghosts. They are just the static of a tired mind. The convoy slows as we approach a narrow defile, a gap between two rising slopes of scree and ice. The wind accelerates through the bottleneck, screaming like a jet engine. The snow is stripped away here, revealing the bare rock, black and slick with verglas. The wagons have to be maneuvered carefully. The guards shout, their voices thin and tearing in the wind. Easy, hold back. We grab the spokes of the wheels, our mittens slipping on the icy wood. We pull back, fighting the gravity that wants to rush the wagon down the slope. The horses sit back on their haunches, their iron shoes sparking on the stones. It is a moment of high tension, of physical struggle against the physics of the slope. The wagon skids, swinging sideways. We throw our weight against the frame, grunting with the effort. The wood groans. The metal screeches. Then the tires find grip. The wagon straightens. We descend, controlled, slow, heavy. At the bottom of the defile, the wind drops. We are in a bowl, a sheltered depression where the air is still and silent. The silence is sudden and deafening. The ringing in the ears, caused by the hours of wind, becomes a loud, high-pitched whine. We stand there, gasping for breath, the steam from our lungs rising straight up in the still air. The lack of wind makes the cold feel different, less sharp but heavier, a crushing weight. We can feel the temperature dropping in the stillness. The heat radiates away from our bodies, rising into the dark sky. We need to keep moving. The stillness is a trap. It feels peaceful, but it is the peace of the grave. The horses are suffering. Their heads hang low, their noses almost touching the snow. Their breathing is ragged, wet. The sweat on their flanks has frozen into a shell of ice, giving them a gray, armored appearance. One of the horses, a large bay with a white blaze, stumbles and goes to its knees. The driver does not whip it. He climbs down, his movements slow and stiff. He talks to the horse, a low murmur that we cannot hear. He lifts the horse's head, pulling gently on the bridle. The horse groans, a sound that is too human for comfort. It struggles, its hooves scrabbling on the ice. Then, with a heave of massive muscles, it stands. It shakes itself, the ice on its coat rattling like dry leaves. The driver pats its neck with a heavy, mittened hand. He climbs back up. We move. It is a small drama played out in the dark, a testament to the bond between the man and the beast, both slaves to the same journey. We are walking towards a wall of fog that hangs across the path ahead. It is thick, opaque, a solid gray barrier. We enter it without slowing. The world vanishes. The lantern light is reflected back at us, creating a blinding glare of white fog. We can see nothing but the few feet of ground immediately ahead. The man in front of me is a shadow, a blur. The man behind me is gone. I am alone in the cloud. The sense of isolation is terrifying. I reach out with one hand, touching the chain, reassured by the cold, hard metal. I am still connected. I am still part of the line. The fog muffles the sound, turning the crunch of the boots into a soft, cottony thud. We are walking in a dream, a silent, white room with no walls. The texture of the air in the fog is wet. The moisture condenses on the wool, on the skin, on the eyelashes. It freezes instantly, forming a heavy layer of hoarfrost. We are turning white. We are becoming snowmen. The weight of the coat increases. The scarf becomes a rigid collar of ice. To turn the head requires cracking the seal of the frost. We walk staring straight ahead, eyes locked in a fixed gaze. To look around is too much effort. To think is too much effort. We are engines of flesh and bone, consuming the last reserves of fuel to turn the cranks of the legs. Deep in the fog, we hear a sound. It is not the wind, it is not the wagons. It is a cracking sound like a rifle shot, but deeper, more resonant. It comes from the right, from somewhere out in the void. Crack, then silence, then another crack. It is the sound of the earth splitting, of the ice contracting in the extreme cold. It sounds like the planet is breaking apart. We feel the vibration in the soles of the boots, a tremor that runs up the legs. The horses twitch, their ears flicking back. We keep walking. We do not stop to investigate. We do not want to know what is making the sound. We just want to get away from it. But the sound follows us, echoing in the fog, a sniper taking shots at the convoy from the dark. The fog begins to thin, swirling in eddies around our legs. We emerge into a landscape that is even more desolate than before. A flat plain of black gravel, swept clear of snow by some freak of the wind. The visual style shifts to a high-contrast etching. The ground is jet black, the sky is a lighter gray. We are black shapes moving on black ground. The only color is the amber of the lanterns and the white of the steam from the horses. The sound of the boots on the gravel is loud, a harsh, grinding crunch. It feels like walking on crushed bone. The stones shift underfoot, making the footing treacherous. We slide and stumble, the chain jerking and snapping. It is a hateful terrain, ugly and difficult. We have been walking for hours since the last halt. The body has entered a state of metabolic shutdown. The fingers are claws frozen into the shape of the mitten. The toes are dead blocks of wood. The nose is a numb lump of cartilage. We do not feel the cold anymore. We feel a deep, abiding heaviness. The gravity seems to have doubled. Every step requires a monumental effort of will. Lift, place, lift, place. Why are we doing this? The question rises in the sluggish mind. Why not just sit down? The gravel looks soft. The dark looks inviting. Just for a minute, just to rest the eyes. But the chain pulls. The man ahead moves. The habit of obedience is stronger than the desire for sleep. We walk because we are told to walk. We walk because the alternative is to become part of the gravel. The guard ahead raises a hand. We stop. Why have we stopped? Is it the end? No, he points to the side. A wagon wheel has picked up a stone wedged between the rim and the brake. It is a small thing, a minor mechanical issue, but in this place it is a crisis. The driver climbs down. He takes a hammer from a box. He strikes the stone. Clang. The sound rings out sharp and clear. Clang. The stone does not move. Clang. It shatters. The pieces fall to the ground. The driver climbs back up. We move. The interruption was brief, but it broke the trance. The pain rushes back in. The cold rushes back in. We hate the stone. We hate the wheel. We hate the driver. We hate the waking up. We want to go back to the sleepwalking. We want the numbness. We trudge on. The horizon is still missing. The destination is still a mystery. The vintage drawing of our journey is a loop, a repeating gif of suffering. The dark paper, the gray pencil, the smudge of the lantern. It is the only world we know. The memories of a life before the convoy are gone, erased by the wind. There is only the convoy. There is only the ice. There is only the walk to the end of the world. The transition from the black gravel plain to the salt flats is not marked by a boundary line, but by a gradual lightening of the ground beneath our boots. The dark, loose stones that crunched and shifted underfoot become fewer, replaced by patches of hard, white alkaline earth that rings like iron when struck. Slowly, the black fades away entirely, and we are left walking on a vast, pale expanse that stretches into the infinite dark. It is the bed of an ancient, vanished lake, a ghost of water that evaporated millennia ago, leaving behind a crust of salt and minerals frozen into a pavement as hard as granite. The visual texture of the journey shifts once more. The heavy, chaotic strokes of charcoal are put aside. The artist picks up a stick of hard, white chalk and begins to draw sharp, geometric lines on a sheet of deep indigo paper. The contrast is stark, blinding in its intensity. The ground glows with a faint, spectral luminescence, reflecting the starlight and the weak amber of the lanterns with a cold, sickly pallor. Walking on the salt pan is a different kind of torture. There is no give to the surface. It is a solid, unyielding slab that sends the shock of every step straight up the skeletal structure of the leg. The knees absorb the impact, a dull, repetitive jarring that feels like a hammer striking a nail. The hips ache with a deep, grinding pain. The spine compresses. We can feel the vibrations of the wagons traveling through the ground, a low-frequency hum that tickles the soles of the feet even through the thick leather of the boots. The sound of the march changes from the crunch of snow to a sharp, rhythmic clack-clack-clack. It is a loud, exposing sound. There is no muffling here, no softness. We are insects scuttling across a dinner plate, audible for miles in the dead silence of the plateau. The wind has stripped the salt flats bare of snow. There is nothing to drift, nothing to soften the edges of the world. The wind here is a laminar flow, smooth and incredibly fast, sliding over the flat surface without turbulence. It strikes the convoy at knee height, a river of freezing air that sucks the heat from the legs. We can feel the cold seeping through the trousers, through the long underwear, turning the skin to marble. The sensation of the fabric against the skin changes. It no longer feels like cloth, but like a sheet of cold metal wrapped around the limbs. We walk with a stiff-legged gait, trying to minimize the bending of the knees, trying to preserve the fragile warmth of the joints. We look like marionettes with tangled strings, jerking and twitching across the stage of the night. The air on the salt pan is impossibly dry. It is a desiccant, pulling moisture from every pore, every mucous membrane. The lips crack and bleed, the blood freezing instantly into dark scabs. The tongue swells in the mouth, a rough, dry object that feels too large for the space it occupies. We try to swallow, but there is nothing to swallow. The throat is a tube of sandpaper. The thirst is a physical weight in the belly, a heavy, cold stone that sits there and demands attention. We dream of water. Not just drinking it, but being submerged in it. We dream of rain, of rivers, of oceans. But here, water is a rock. It is a solid. The concept of liquid is a memory fading with every mile. The lanterns cast long, distorted shadows on the white ground. Because the surface is so flat and reflective, the shadows are sharp-edged and terrifyingly clear. They stretch out to the side, 50-foot giants marching in lockstep with us. We watch our own shadows, mesmerizing ourselves with the repetitive motion of the dark legs scissoring back and forth. The shadow of the wagon wheels is an ellipse that elongates and contracts as the lantern swings. The shadow of the horse is a monstrous, multi-legged beast that ripples across the salt. These shadows are our only companions, the only things that confirm our existence in this void. If the light were to die, the shadows would vanish, and we fear that we would vanish with them, dissolving into the indigo night. We pass a series of fissures in the salt crust, hexagonal cracks that form a geometric pattern extending to the horizon. They look like the scales of a giant reptile or the crazing on an old ceramic glaze. The wheels of the wagons bump over these cracks with a rhythmic thud-thud. It creates a tempo, a slow, funereal drumbeat that regulates the march. Thud-thud, step, thud-thud, step. The mind latches onto this rhythm, using it to structure the passage of time. We are not walking for hours, we are walking for measures of the drum. We count the thuds. 1,000, 2,000. The numbers lose their meaning, becoming just sounds in the head, mantras of endurance. The lead horse, a massive brute with a coat the color of dried mud, begins to falter. Its head bobs lower with each step. We can hear the change in its breathing, a ragged, hitching sound that speaks of fluid in the lungs. The driver knows. He does not use the whip. He talks to the horse, a low, constant stream of nonsense words, a lifeline of sound to keep the animal anchored to the living world. Easy now, steady on, just a bit further, walk on. The words drift back to us, carried by the wind. They are meant for the horse, but we take them for ourselves. Just a bit further. It is a lie, of course. There is no further. There is only here. But we hold onto the lie. We wrap it around us like a blanket. The salt reflects the starlight with such intensity that it creates a phenomenon known as ground shine. The world is illuminated from below, casting a ghostly, underlit pallor on the faces of the men. We look like corpses, our eyes sunken in deep sockets of shadow, our cheekbones highlighted by the cold white glow. The frost on our beards and eyebrows catches the light, turning us into creatures of crystal and bone. We avoid looking at each other. To see the death in another man's face is to see the reflection of one's own fate. We look at the ground. We look at the salt. We look at the cracks. A hallucination begins to take hold of the line. It starts with a whisper, a rumor of a smell. Someone thinks they smell the sea. The salt in the air, the vast flatness, it triggers a memory of the ocean. The mind, desperate for a change, seizes upon this. We begin to hear the sound of waves in the wind. The rush-hush of the air over the salt becomes the breaking of surf on a distant beach. The white ground becomes white sand. For a few glorious minutes, we are walking on a beach at night, the cold wind a refreshing sea breeze. The pain in the legs recedes slightly. The thirst becomes the thirst of a sailor, not a prisoner. But then, a boot slips on a patch of ice. The jar of the impact shatters the illusion. The ocean vanishes. The salt returns. The cold rushes back in with a vengeance, punishing us for the momentary escape. The convoy slows as we approach a disturbance in the flatness. A ridge of pressure ice has formed where the salt pan meets a buried fault line. Slabs of the crust have been pushed up, forming a jagged wall of white translucent stone that glows in the lantern light. It looks like a barricade of shattered glass, sharp and dangerous. We have to navigate through a gap in the ridge, a narrow choke point where the wind screams like a banshee. The wagons barely fit. The hubs of the wheels scrape against the ice walls, sending showers of white sparks into the air. The sound is a high-pitched shriek of metal on stone that sets the teeth on edge. We squeeze through, turning our bodies sideways, the chains clanking against the ice. It is a moment of claustrophobia, of being crushed between the teeth of the earth. Beyond the ridge, the texture of the ground changes again. The smooth, hard salt gives way to a field of salt flowers, delicate crystalline structures that have grown out of the brine in the extreme cold. They look like white coral, intricate and fragile. They cover the ground for miles. We cannot avoid them. We have to walk through them. With every step, we crush a dozen of these beautiful things. The sound is a continuous, sickening crunch, like walking on eggshells or dry bones. It feels like a desecration. We are destroying a garden that has taken centuries to grow. The wagons leave two wide, crushed paths behind them, a swath of destruction that marks our passage. We look back and see the dark trails in the white field, a scar on the perfection of the landscape. We feel a vague sense of guilt, but it is buried under the fatigue. We are too tired to care about beauty. We are too tired to care about destruction. We just want to stop walking. The cold is now affecting the equipment. The leather of the harnesses is freezing into rigid shapes, threatening to snap. The oil in the wheel hubs is thick as tar, increasing the drag. The metal of the chains has become brittle. A sudden jerk could shatter a link like glass. We move with a terrified caution, aware that our technology is failing. The lanterns are the biggest worry. The flames are small, blue at the base, struggling to consume the thickening oil. The glass panes are frosted over, dimming the light to a muddy brown. The guards stop frequently to scrape the frost away, their gloved fingers leaving streaks in the rime. Each time they stop, the darkness rushes in, pressing against the convoy, testing our defenses. We huddle together, sharing the radiant heat of our bodies, a small island of warmth in a sea of entropy. The man next to me has stopped swinging his arms. They hang at his sides, stiff and useless. I can see the frost on his sleeves, a thick white coating that makes his arms look like logs of birch wood. He is losing the battle. The cold has claimed his extremities. He is walking on stumps, his feet mere clubs of frozen flesh. I can hear him mumbling, a low, incoherent stream of sound. He is talking to people who are not there. He is arguing with a ghost. I nudge him with my shoulder, a rough gesture of solidarity. He does not react. He just keeps walking, driven by the reptilian brain, the part that knows only movement. He is a dead man walking, a biological machine that hasn't realized it has stopped functioning. I look away. I focus on my own feet. Left, right, left, right. We are entering a zone of absolute silence. The wind drops suddenly, as if a door has been closed. The air is still. The sound of the convoy becomes deafeningly loud. The crunch of the salt flowers, the creak of the wagons, the wheeze of the horses. It is a cacophony in the void. We feel exposed by the noise. We try to walk quieter, to breathe softer, but it is impossible. We are intruders in a library of silence. The lack of wind allows the cold to settle vertically. It falls on us like a heavy blanket, a crushing weight of freezing air. We can feel it pressing down on the top of the head, on the shoulders. It is a physical presence, a giant hand pushing us into the earth. The sky above is a dome of polished obsidian, clearer than it has been all night. The stars are hard, diamond points of light, unblinking and cold. The Milky Way is a slash of spilled milk across the blackness, a river of light that mirrors the salt river we are walking on. We look up, and for a moment the vertigo takes us. We feel as if we are falling upwards into the sky. The ground and the sky are the same, black and white, cold and empty. Which way is down? Which way is up? The chain jerks us back to reality. Down is where the feet are. Up is where the cold comes from. We lower our heads. We watch the heels of the man in front. That is the only compass we need. The lead guard halts the convoy. He raises his lantern, swinging it in a wide arc. We stop, grateful for the respite, fearful of the reason. He is looking for a marker, a cairn, a sign. There is nothing but the white salt and the black sky. He consults a piece of paper, a map that crackles in the cold. He shakes his head. He is lost. We know it. He knows it, but he cannot admit it. He puts the map away. He points forward into the dark. We move. The confidence is gone. The certainty of the destination is gone. We are wandering now, drifting across the face of the planet like dust motes. The realization should be terrifying, but we are too numb for terror. Being lost is just another state of being. It doesn't change the walk. We still have to walk. As we continue, the salt pan begins to break up. The smooth surface is interrupted by islands of rock, dark extrusions of volcanic stone that push up through the white crust. We have to steer around them, the line of the convoy snaking back and forth. The drawing becomes more complex, a mix of the white chalk and the black charcoal. The rocks cast long shadows that hide the texture of the ground. We stumble in the dark patches, tripping over hidden ridges. The fatigue is making us clumsy. The discipline of the line is fraying. The chain is slack one moment, taut the next. We are a disorderly mob, bound together by iron and misery. A sound comes from the darkness to the left. A howl. It is not the wind. It is a wolf. A timber wolf, or perhaps something older, something that belongs to this frozen world. The sound is lonely, mournful, sending a shiver down the spine that has nothing to do with the temperature. The horses panic. They shy sideways, their eyes rolling white. The drivers curse, fighting the reins. The guards unshoulder their rifles, the metal clicking in the silence. We wait, watching the dark. Will they come? Are they hunting us? Or are they just singing to the moon? The howl comes again, closer this time. Then silence. We wait, nothing happens. The wolves are watching, assessing. They know we are dying. They know they don't have to hunt. They just have to wait. The convoy moves on, but the fear remains, a cold presence walking alongside us in the dark. We pass the skeleton of a horse, picked clean and bleached white by the frost. It lies on its side, ribs curving up like the hull of a wrecked ship. The skull is turned towards us, empty sockets staring. It is a mirror image of our own horses. We look at the living beasts pulling the wagons. They are barely different from the dead one, just a layer of skin and hair, a spark of fading life. They are walking skeletons pulling a hearse. The connection between the living and the dead is thin here, a veil of ice that is easily broken. We walk past the bones, leaving them to their eternal vigil. They are the milestones of this road. The temperature drops another degree. We can feel the change. It is a subtle tightening of the screw. The air becomes sharper, more brittle. The breath freezes in the throat before it reaches the lungs. We cough, a dry, hacking sound that tears the chest. The blood retreats further, abandoning the skin, abandoning the muscles. It pools in the center, protecting the heart and the brain. The hands are useless claws. The feet are blocks of ice. We are reducing, shrinking, condensing. We are becoming points of consciousness, suspended in a frozen shell. The light of the lantern seems to be failing. The amber glow is shrinking, the circle of illumination contracting. Is the oil running out, or are our eyes failing? The darkness presses in, aggressive and heavy. It wants to extinguish us. It wants to snuff out the little sparks of heat. We fight back with the only weapon we have, the step. We take another step, and another. We defy the dark with motion. As long as we move, we are not dead. As long as we walk, we are still the convoy. We are walking towards a bank of clouds that sits low on the horizon. It looks like a mountain range, solid and imposing. But as we get closer, we see it shifting, roiling. It is a storm, a blizzard waiting for us. We walk towards it without hesitation. There is no other way. The path leads into the storm. We accept this. We accept the wind. We accept the snow. We accept the cold. We are the walkers, and the walk is all there is. The wall of the storm does not arrive. We arrive at it. It is a physical barrier of white turbulence that spans the entire horizon, a vertical ocean of driven snow rising to meet the black ceiling of the sky. As the convoy pushes into the outer edge of the squall, the world undergoes a violent simplification. The complex geometry of the salt flats, with their hexagonal cracks and crystalline flowers, is instantly erased. The stark, high-contrast etching of black rock and white salt is washed away by a chaotic, aggressive scribbling of gray and white pastel. The artist has lost patience with detail. The canvas is now being aggressively filled with heavy, diagonal strokes of white chalk, layering over the black paper until the darkness is almost entirely obscured. We are walking into a void that is neither light nor dark, but a suffocating, churning gray that possesses mass and velocity. The sound of the wind changes from a distant moan to an immediate, deafening roar. It is no longer a sound that is heard. It is a pressure that is felt. It vibrates in the chest cavity, rattling the ribs against the lungs. It presses against the eardrums with the weight of deep water. We open our mouths to equalize the pressure, but the wind steals the breath from our throats, forcing the air back down into the lungs or sucking it out completely. Conversation, which was already impossible, becomes a concept from another life. Even the shout of a guard standing 2 feet away is snatched by the gale and hurled into the oblivion behind us before it can register. We are isolated in a crowd, each man locked in a solitary confinement cell constructed of noise and wind. The only communication is the jerk of the chain at the waist, a brutal Morse code of stumbles and halts that tells us we are still attached to the living. The snow does not fall down. In this place, gravity has been suspended. The snow flies horizontally, parallel to the ground, a billion tiny projectiles of ice traveling at the speed of a galloping horse. It strikes the exposed skin of the face like sandblasting, stripping away the outer layers of the epidermis, leaving raw, red flesh that freezes instantly. We pull the scarves up until they cover everything but the eyes, and even then, we have to narrow the eyelids to mere slits to protect the corneas from freezing. The eyelashes accumulate heavy beads of ice, weighing down the lids, forcing them closed. We walk with eyes shut for 10 steps, 20 steps, trusting the chain, trusting the ground, before forcing them open for a brief, tearing glimpse of the back of the man in front. He is a gray ghost, a smudge in the whiteout, fading in and out of existence with the shifting density of the drift. The temperature plummets. We can feel the gradient of the cold moving through the layers of clothing like water soaking into a sponge. It conquers the outer coat, freezing the wool into a stiff, unyielding shell. It penetrates the jacket, the shirt, the undershirt. It reaches the skin, puckering it into goose flesh that feels like gravel. It dives deeper, seeking the heat of the blood, slowing the circulation, turning the veins into rivers of sludge. The hands inside the thick felt mittens are curled into tight balls, the thumbs tucked inside the fingers, desperate to share the last calories of warmth. But there is no warmth left to share. The hands are foreign objects, numb weights attached to the ends of the arms. We try to wiggle the fingers to command movement, but the signals from the brain are lost in the frozen nerves. They respond sluggishly, if at all. The wagons are suffering. The wind catches the canvas covers, turning them into sails that threaten to push the vehicles off the track. The wood groans and shrieks under the strain, the frame twisting as the wind hammers against the side. The drivers are hunched low, their heads almost touching the knees, trying to present the smallest possible profile to the storm. They have given up trying to steer. The horses have their heads down, boring into the wind, following the path of least resistance, which is simply away from the pain. The wheels cut deep tracks into the fresh drifts, but the wind fills them in seconds after they are made. We look back and see nothing. The path behind us is gone. The history of our journey is being erased in real time. There is only the present moment, the white wall, and the struggle to take the next step. We are walking in a whiteout, a condition where the light is so diffused by the snow and the clouds that all shadows are eliminated. Depth perception fails completely. The ground looks the same as the sky. A drift 3 feet high looks exactly like a flat patch of snow until we stumble into it. A drop-off looks like a rise. We are walking blindly, our feet probing the ground like the canes of the blind. Every step is a gamble. We lift the boot, swing it forward into the white nothingness, and wait for the impact. Sometimes it comes sooner than expected, jarring the spine. Sometimes it comes later, sending us stumbling into a hole. The rhythm of the march is broken, replaced by a chaotic, lurching progress that drains energy at a terrifying rate. The muscles of the legs are in a constant state of tension, bracing for the unknown. The ice begins to build up on the lee side of the body. The wind drives the snow into the weave of the coat, where the escaping body heat melts it for a fraction of a second before the cold refreezes it. We are being encased in armor of ice. The coat becomes heavy, rigid. The sleeves bang against the sides of the body like wooden boards. The trousers crackle with every bend of the knee. We are becoming statues, mobile sculptures of ice and wool. The weight is oppressive. It feels as if gravity has doubled. We are carrying the storm on our backs. The sheer physical effort of lifting the leg, breaking the crust of the coat, moving the weight, and planting the foot is agonizing. It requires a conscious summons of will for every single motion. The mind, deprived of visual stimulation and assaulted by the monotonic roar of the wind, begins to malfunction. The hallucinations return, but they are different now. They are not visions of warmth or home. They are abstract, geometric. We see patterns in the flying snow, spirals, grids, fractals that spin and twist. We see faces in the whiteout, giant, translucent visages that scream silently as they pass through the convoy. We hear voices in the wind, a choir of lost souls singing a discordant anthem. The rational part of the brain knows these are not real, but the rational part is small and shrinking, huddled in the back of the skull, while the primitive reptilian brain takes over. The primitive brain understands only one thing: survival. And survival means movement. Move or die, walk or freeze. We pass the lead wagon. It has stopped. The horse on the left has gone down. It lies on its side in the snow, a dark mound rapidly turning white. The other horses stand with heads low, indifferent, their breath steaming in the gale. The driver is on the ground, struggling to undo the traces. His movements are slow, clumsy. He fumbles with the frozen buckles, his stiff fingers useless. A guard comes to help, slicing the leather with a knife. They free the fallen horse, but it does not rise. It does not struggle. It is simply resigned. The driver pats its neck once, a gesture of farewell, and then climbs back onto the wagon. The remaining 3 horses must now pull the load. The whip cracks, a sound lost in the wind. The wagon lurches forward. We walk past the fallen horse. Its eye is open, dark and liquid, watching us pass. It blinks once, twice. Then the snow covers it. We leave it behind, a dark anchor cut loose in the white sea. The convoy reforms, the gap closes, the chain pulls taut. We are 1 horse fewer, 1 life fewer. The equation of the journey has been adjusted. The weight is redistributed. We feel the loss not as a sadness, but as a dull anxiety. The margin for error has narrowed. The redundancy is gone. If another horse falls, what then? Do we pull the wagons? Do we leave the supplies? We do not ask. We just walk. The wind screams its answer. It does not care. It will take every horse, every man, every wagon, until there is nothing left but the snow. The snow underfoot changes texture again. We are crossing a zone of deep drifts where the wind has piled the powder into dunes. We sink to the thighs. The effort to move is quadrupled. We have to lift the leg high, pulling it out of the suction of the snow, swing it over the top of the drift, and drive it down. It is like wading through molasses. The heart hammers against the ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage. The lungs burn with the intake of freezing air. The steam from our breath surrounds the head in a cloud, blinding us further. We are drowning in the snow. We gasp, we heave, we struggle. The chain creates drag, catching on the drifts, pulling us back. We fight the chain. We fight the snow. We fight the wind. It is a total war against the elements, fought 1 step at a time. In the deep drifts, the line slows to a crawl. The guard's shouting is useless. The whip is useless. We move at the speed of exhaustion. We are no longer walking. We are falling forward and catching ourselves. It is a controlled stumble. The man in front of me falls. He disappears into the white powder. I stop, the chain pulling at my waist. He does not get up immediately. I wait. The wind howls over us. I look down at the depression in the snow where he lies. I can see the hump of his back, the dark wool coated in white. He is resting. It looks so peaceful, to lie down, to stop fighting, to let the snow cover you. It would be warm eventually. The cold would fade, the sleep would come. But the guard is there. He looms out of the mist like a monster, his lantern swinging. He kicks the man in the snow, not hard but firmly. "Move," he mouths. The word is lost, but the intent is clear. The man in the snow groans. He pushes himself up. He is covered in white, a snowman come to life. He stumbles forward. The chain tightens. I move. The temptation to lie down lingers, a sweet poison in the mind. I push it away. Not yet, not now. We clear the drifts and reach a patch of scoured ice. The wind has blown the snow away here, revealing the hard, blue-black surface of the underlying glacier. The transition is treacherous. We go from the deep resistance of the powder to the zero friction of the ice. Boots slide. Men fall hard, bones hitting the stone-like surface. The wagon skid, the wheels losing traction, sliding sideways towards the edge of the path. The horses scramble, their iron shoes striking sparks that die instantly. We cluster together, trying to find stability in mass. We hold onto the wagons, onto each other. We shuffle across the ice, terrified of the fall. A broken leg here is a death sentence. There are no medics. There is no ambulance. There is only the snow and the wolf that waits in the dark. The storm seems to have a pulse. It intensifies, then abates slightly, then intensifies again. During the lulls, the wind drops to a mere gale, and we can see a few yards further. During the peaks, the wind becomes a hurricane and the visibility drops to zero. We learn to read the rhythm of the storm. We push harder during the lulls. We hunker down and endure during the peaks. We are surfing the waves of the blizzard, a fragile vessel of flesh and wood navigating a chaotic ocean of air. The lantern light is barely visible now. The glass is frosted over completely on the windward side. The guards have given up trying to clear it. The light is a dim, brown glow, barely strong enough to illuminate the ground at our feet. We are walking in a tunnel of darkness with only the faint, sickly light to guide us. It feels as if the sun has gone out forever. It feels as if the world has ended and we are the last survivors, walking through the wreckage of the atmosphere. The darkness is heavy, pressing. It feels solid. We are tunneling through it, boring a hole in the night with our bodies. We lose track of time completely. Has it been an hour, a day, a week? The concept of hour is meaningless. There is only the duration of a step, the duration of a breath, the duration of a thought. The past is a blank. The future is a blank. There is only the continuous loop-like present, the crunch of the boot, the howl of the wind, the sting of the cold. We are trapped in a loop of sensory input that never changes. It is a form of hypnosis. We are sleepwalking. The body moves on autopilot, the mind disengaged, floating in a gray void. Suddenly, a shape looms out of the whiteout to the right. It is large, angular, unnatural. A building, a rock. We approach it cautiously. The wind screams around its corners. As we get closer, the lantern light reveals stone walls half buried in the snow. It is a ruin, a way station perhaps, or a shepherd's hut from a milder age. The roof is gone, collapsed under the weight of centuries of snow. The walls are broken teeth, jagged and dark. We pass close to it, seeking a moment of shelter in its lee. For a few seconds, the wind drops, the roar lessens. We can hear our own breathing, loud and ragged. We can hear the creak of the leather. It is a moment of respite, a tiny island of calm. We look into the ruin as we pass. The interior is filled with snow drifted high against the remaining walls. There is nothing there. No furniture, no fire, no life, just the cold stone and the white drift. It is a dead place, but it proves that people were here once. People built this. People lived here. Where are they now? Gone, erased, just as we will be. The thought is not frightening, it is comforting. It connects us to the history of the place. We are part of the long procession of things that have passed through this valley and vanished. We leave the ruin behind, stepping back out into the full fury of the storm. The wind hits us again, a physical blow. The noise returns. The struggle resumes. The cold is changing the consistency of the snow. It is becoming drier, harder, more abrasive. It squeaks under the boots with a high-pitched styrofoam sound. The friction is intense. It feels like walking on sandpaper. The sound is irritating, setting the teeth on edge. Squeak crunch. Squeak crunch. It drills into the skull. We try to step lightly to minimize the sound, but the heavy boots and the heavy packs make it impossible. We are noisy intruders in the silent kingdom of the cold. The man behind me stumbles and grabs my coat. I stagger, nearly losing my balance. I turn, ready to snarl, but the wind tears the anger away. I see his face, a mask of ice. His eyes are wide, terrified. He points to his boot. The sole has separated, flapping loose like a dead tongue. The snow is packing into the boot, freezing his foot. He is finished. He knows it. I look at him. There is nothing I can do. I cannot stop. I cannot fix his boot. I cannot carry him. I turn back around. I keep walking. I feel the tug on the chain as he struggles to keep up, his gait uneven, limping. The tugs become sharper, more desperate. Then they settle into a rhythmic jerking. He is dragging the foot. I lean forward, pulling him, towing him. I become his engine. I pull. He drags. We walk. The storm shows no sign of ending. If anything, it is getting worse. The wind is shifting, coming more from the north, bringing with it a deeper, more profound cold. This is the breath of the pole, the air from the roof of the world. It carries the scent of ancient ice, of things that have been frozen since the beginning of time. It is a pure, sterile, lethal air. We breathe it in and it freezes the moisture in the nose instantly. The nostrils stick together. We have to breathe through the mouth, sucking the cold air over the teeth, cracking the enamel. The throat burns. The lungs ache. We are breathing razor blades. We are walking up a slight incline now. The gradient is shallow, but in the deep snow and the wind, it feels like a vertical cliff. The wagons are heavy anchors dragging us back. The horses are failing. They stop every few yards, heads down, refusing to move. The drivers shout, their voices cracking. They use the whip not with cruelty but with desperation. Crack, crack. The sound is dull in the wind. The horses lunge, pull a few feet, and stop again. It is a war of attrition. Inch by inch, foot by foot. We push from behind, hands on the icy wood of the tailgate. We slip, we fall, we get up, we push. We are Sisyphus, rolling the boulder up the mountain of snow. The darkness of the storm is absolute. There is no day, no night. There is only the storm. The lanterns are the only reality. We fix our eyes on the amber glow. It is the sun, the moon, the stars. It is the only thing that matters. If the light dies, we die. We worship the light. We follow the light. We are moths in the blizzard, fluttering towards the flame that leads us to the end of the world. The visual field is a blur of gray streaks. The artist is scribbling furiously now, covering the page in chaos. There is no up, no down, just the swirl. The vertigo returns, a spinning sensation in the inner ear. We feel like we are tumbling through space. We grab the chain, the coat, the wagon, anything solid. We anchor ourselves to the tactile world because the visual world has dissolved. We are blind men walking on a treadmill of ice. We are entering the heart of the blizzard. The eye of the storm is a myth. There is only more storm. The wind is a solid object. The snow is a solid object. We are the only soft things in a world of hard edges. We are the intruders. We are the prey. The storm is the predator, and it is eating us slowly, bite by bite, degree by degree. We walk into the mouth of the beast. We do not stop. We do not look back. We walk. The violence of the storm does not end with a sudden cessation, but with a gradual, suffocating burial. The horizontal screaming of the wind, which has been our constant companion for an eternity, begins to lose its erratic fury, settling into a low, mournful drone that vibrates in the marrow of our bones. The snow, no longer driven like buckshot into our faces, begins to fall vertically. It falls in heavy, wet clumps, immense flakes the size of coins that spiral down from the darkness with a hypnotic slowness. They land on our shoulders, our hats, the backs of the horses, accumulating instantly. We are no longer walking through a blizzard. We are walking through a falling ocean. The air is thick with white noise, a static that fills the eyes and ears, blurring the boundaries between the self and the storm. The visual texture of the world softens. The sharp, aggressive scratches of the gale are replaced by soft, smudged layers of white pastel, applied heavily over the black paper, until the darkness is almost entirely obscured by a thick, suffocating blanket of gray. We move through this falling silence like deep-sea divers on the floor of an abyss. The pressure of the cold is immense, a physical weight that presses against the temples and the chest. The simple act of expanding the lungs to take a breath requires a conscious, muscular effort against the density of the freezing air. The steam from our breath no longer flies away in the wind. It hangs around us, a personal fog that freezes on the scarf, the eyebrows, the lashes. We are encasing ourselves in masks of ice. The moisture from the eyes freezes, gluing the lids together. We have to pry them open with numb, clumsy fingers, tearing the skin, just to see the dark shape of the man in front. He is a walking snowman, a vague, lumbering mound of white that stops and starts with the jerking of the chain. The depth of the snow on the ground has changed. The wind-scoured hardpack is gone, buried under 2 feet of fresh, soft powder. It is beautiful, pristine, and terrible. Walking in it is a slow-motion nightmare. The foot sinks, compressing the crystals with a soft crump sound. The snow grips the boot, holding it down. To lift the leg is to lift a weight of lead. The muscles in the thighs scream with a dull, burning exhaustion that never fades. We lift, we swing, we drop, we sink. It is a rhythm of drowning. The wagons plow through the drifts, the wheels hidden up to the axles. The wood pushes a wave of snow ahead of it, a white bow wave that curls and breaks in slow motion. The sound is a muffled, grinding hush, the friction of wood and iron against millions of snowflakes. The horses are swimming. They lunge forward, their massive chests breaking the drifts, their heads throwing up sprays of white powder. We can hear their breathing, a wet, rattling sound that speaks of fluids freezing in the lungs. They are dying on their feet, driven only by the ancient instinct to follow the herd. As the wind dies completely, a profound silence descends upon the convoy. It is not the silence of peace. It is the silence of the void. It is the absence of life. The only sounds are the ones we make, the crump-hush of the boots, the creak of the leather, the jingle of the chains. These sounds seem incredibly loud, amplified by the stillness. We feel exposed, vulnerable. The wind was a shield, a chaotic noise that hid us. Now we are revealed. The cold settles vertically, falling from the zenith like invisible iron filings. It is a penetrating cold, sharp and absolute. It bypasses the wool, the felt, the skin. It goes straight to the core. We can feel the heat draining away from the body, radiating out into the insatiable hunger of the night. We visualize our internal fires, small, flickering candles deep in the chest, shrinking, sputtering, threatening to go out. We hunch our shoulders, crossing our arms over our chests, trying to cup the flame, trying to keep it alive for one more hour, one more mile. The darkness of the sky begins to lift, revealing the true horror of the landscape. The clouds part slowly, ragged curtains of gray velvet pulling back to reveal a sky of polished obsidian. The stars return. They are not the friendly, twinkling lights of the south. They are hard, white diamonds, cold and distant, staring down at us with an indifferent, unblinking gaze. They look sharp enough to cut glass. The Milky Way is a frozen river of spilled milk, a band of cold light that mirrors the snow below. The clarity of the air is terrifying. We can see for miles in the starlight, and what we see is nothing. Just the white, rolling ocean of the snow, stretching out to a horizon that looks like the edge of the world. There are no trees, no rocks, no landmarks. Just the endless, undulating white. We are ants crawling across a blank sheet of paper, leaving a temporary scratch that will be gone by morning. We pass a shape in the snow to the left. It is a mound, smooth and white like a buried boulder. But as the lantern light washes over it, we see the tip of a ski protruding from the drift. It is a grave, a traveler who stopped to rest and never got up. We do not stop. We do not look closely. To stop is to join him. The thought is seductive. The snow looks so soft, like a feather bed. To just lie down, to curl up, to close the eyes. The cold would stop hurting. It would become a warm, heavy blanket. The sleep would be deep and dreamless. We fight the urge with a savage, primitive fear. The chain is our lifeline. It pulls us past the grave. It drags us back to the pain. We hate the chain, but we love it. It is the only thing keeping us upright. The man in front of me has changed his gait. He is no longer lifting his feet. He is shuffling, plowing 2 deep furrows in the snow. His head hangs low, his chin resting on his chest. He is asleep. He is walking in his sleep. I watch him with a detached curiosity. Will he fall? If he falls, will he wake up? Or will he just stay down? I nudge him with my mittened hand, a dull thud against his back. He grunts, a sound of pure misery, and lifts his head a fraction. He stumbles, catches himself, and keeps shuffling. We are all sleepwalkers. The line between consciousness and unconsciousness has blurred. We are dreaming of walking while we walk. We are dreaming of stopping while we move. The reality of the snow and the dream of the warmth are superimposed, creating a hallucinatory landscape where fire burns on the ice and snow falls in the living room. The convoy enters a region where the snow has formed strange, wind-carved sculptures. These are sastrugi that have been buried and then re-exposed, softened by the fresh powder. They look like sleeping giants, huddled forms lying in rows. We walk between them, a procession of mourners in a graveyard of snow ghosts. The shadows cast by the lanterns are long and distorted, dancing over the white mounds. The shadows look like they are moving independently, detaching from us and running away into the dark. We watch them go, wishing we could follow. The silence here is heavy, thick. It feels like the air itself has frozen into a solid block. We are tunneling through it. The temperature drops another degree. We can hear it. The ice on the wagons cracks with loud, pistol-shot reports as the wood contracts. The metal of the chain sings a high, thin note when it strikes the buckle. The snow underfoot changes pitch, becoming a high-frequency squeak that sets the teeth on edge. It sounds like walking on styrofoam. Squeak, squeak, squeak. It is a maddening sound, a drill boring into the skull. We try to step lightly, but we are too heavy, too clumsy. We are trapped in the sound of our own progress. The breath freezes in the throat, a sharp intake of needles. We cough, a dry, hacking sound that tears the lungs. The spit freezes on the lips before it can be wiped away. We are becoming creatures of ice, inside and out. The lantern carrier at the front of the line stops. He raises his light high. We halt. The cessation of movement is a physical shock. The blood, which was sluggishly circulating, seems to stop completely. The cold rushes in to fill the void left by the exertion. We stand there, shivering violently, the chains rattling a discordant tune. What is it? What does he see? We peer into the gloom. Ahead, rising out of the snow like the bones of a prehistoric beast, are the ruins of a structure. It is not a house nor a barn. It is a series of stone arches, black and jagged against the stars, an aqueduct, a bridge to nowhere. It stands in the middle of the nothingness, a monument to futility. We stare at it uncomprehending. Who built this? Why? It doesn't matter. It is just another obstacle. We move towards the arches. The path leads directly through them. As we pass under the stone span, the acoustic environment changes. The sound of the boots echoes off the masonry, a hollow clack-clack that sounds like skeletons dancing. The wind sighs through the gaps in the stone, a low, mournful whistle. We feel a sense of oppression, of being watched by the ghosts of the builders. The stone is cold, radiating a chill that is deeper than the air. We hurry through, anxious to be back in the open, back in the simple, honest cold of the snow. The arches recede behind us, swallowed by the night, leaving only the question of their existence to drift in the frozen mind. The hunger returns, no longer a hollow ache but a sharp, biting pain. The body has consumed its reserves. It is now consuming the muscle. We can feel the weakness spreading, a trembling in the knees and the hands. We fantasize about food with a vivid, pornographic intensity. A steaming bowl of stew, thick with potatoes and meat. A loaf of hot bread breaking open to release a cloud of yeast and steam. A mug of hot chocolate, thick and sweet. The images are so real we can smell them. We salivate, swallowing the ice that forms in the mouth. The disappointment when the vision fades is crushing. It leaves us hollowed out, scraped clean of hope. We are empty vessels, carrying nothing but the cold. The convoy slows. The snow is deeper here, drifted against an unseen ridge. The horses are struggling. They plunge and heave, their breath coming in great white clouds. The drivers shout, their voices thin and reedy in the vast silence. Push, push. We lean into the wagons, our hands slipping on the icy wood. We push with our shoulders, our backs, our legs. The wheels turn slowly, crunching through the drift. It is a battle of inches. We gain a foot, slide back 6 inches. We grunt, we strain. The effort warms us slightly. A brief flare of heat that is instantly extinguished by the sweat freezing on the skin. We are wet with our own exertion, a dangerous dampness that will kill us if we stop. We crest the ridge and look down. Below us lies a vast, flat expanse, a frozen lake or a salt pan stretching to the horizon. It is a sheet of white paper, unblemished, perfect. It looks peaceful, it looks like a bed. We descend towards it, the gravity pulling us down, the wagons pushing the horses. The descent is uncontrolled, a sliding, stumbling rush. We fight to keep our footing, to keep the line intact. The chain jerks and snaps. Men fall, sliding on their backs, dragged by the weight of the others. We are a tangle of limbs and iron rolling down the hill. We reach the bottom in a heap, bruised and breathless. We pick ourselves up. We dust off the snow. We check the chain. It holds. We are still together. We move on. On the flat surface of the frozen lake, the walking is easier, but the cold is worse. There is no shelter here, no drifts to break the wind. The air moves freely across the ice, a steady, freezing current. We walk in a line, heads down, following the tracks of the wagon. The ice booms under our feet, deep, resonant cracks that sound like thunder from the deep. The lake is alive, shifting and settling under the weight of the winter. We are walking on a skin over a dark, cold abyss. We try not to think about the water below. We think about the ice. The ice is thick. The ice is strong. The ice will hold. The man next to me begins to hum. It is a tuneless, repetitive sound, a low vibration in his throat. Mhem. It is the sound of a mind that has snapped loose from its moorings. He is comforting himself, rocking his own soul to sleep. I do not stop him. The sound is a rhythm. I step to the beat. Mhem step. It becomes the metronome of the march. The other men pick it up. Soon, a low, buzzing hum rises from the line, a hive of frozen bees moving across the ice. It is a strange, primal music, a chant of the doomed. It drowns out the squeak of the snow. It fills the silence. It makes the walk bearable. We look up at the sky. The aurora borealis has returned. It is faint this time, a pale green wash that ripples across the northern horizon. It looks like a curtain of green fire, cold and silent. It moves slowly, folding and unfolding, a celestial dance for an audience of dying men. We watch it with dull eyes. It is beautiful, yes, but it is also cold. Everything here is cold. The beauty is a trap. It lures you in, makes you look, makes you stop. And then the cold takes you. We look back down at the boots. The boots are safe. The boots are ugly. The boots are life. The lead horse stumbles and falls. This time it does not get up. It lies on the ice, its legs thrashing feebly. The driver climbs down. He looks at the horse. He looks at the convoy. He looks at the dark horizon. He shakes his head. He unbuckles the traces. The horse is cut loose. We walk past it. It watches us go, its eyes wide and dark. It tries to lift its head, then lets it fall back onto the ice. The snow begins to cover it immediately. It becomes a white mound, a bump in the smooth surface of the lake. We feel a pang of loss, a sharp stab of grief for the beast. It was one of us. It pulled its weight. Now it is gone. We are smaller. We are weaker. The end feels closer. We leave the lake and enter a canyon of ice. The walls rise sheer on either side, blue and translucent in the starlight. We are walking inside a glacier. The air here is ancient, trapped for thousands of years in the ice and released only now by our passing. It tastes of dust and stone. The silence is absolute. The walls block the wind, block the world. We are in a cathedral of ice. The lantern light reflects off the walls, creating a hall of mirrors. We see ourselves reflected 1,000 times, 1,000 convoys, 1,000 prisoners walking into infinity. It is a dizzying, disorienting sight. We focus on the path. We focus on the exit. The exit is a narrow slot in the ice, a birth canal of the cold. We squeeze through, the wagon scraping the walls. We emerge onto a high plateau, windswept and barren. The wind hits us again, a slap in the face. We welcome it. It is real. The canyon was a dream. The plateau is the reality. We are back in the fight. We are walking towards a faint glow on the horizon. Is it the dawn? Is it a settlement? Or is it just another trick of the light? We do not know. We do not hope. Hope is dangerous. Hope makes the disappointment harder. We just walk. We walk towards the light because there is nowhere else to go. The light is the target. The boots are the weapon. The walk is the war. The texture of the drawing is now smooth, hard. The artist is using a fine point, etching the details of the ice and the stars with precision. The shadows are sharp, black ink on white paper. The world is high contrast, binary, life or death, moving or stopping, warm or cold. There is no gray area left. We are in the final zone, the zone of the absolute. We check the man behind, he is there. We check the man ahead, he is there. The chain is intact. The line is unbroken. We are the convoy, we are the survivors, we walk. The light on the horizon does not grow warmer as we approach. It merely gains definition, sharpening from a diffuse glow into a hard, geometric point of luminescence. It is not the sun. The sun is a memory that belongs to a different geological era. This light is artificial, a beacon of pale yellow fire imprisoned behind thick glass, set atop a structure that rises from the ice like a black tooth. We are walking towards the end of the land, towards the edge where the continent fractures and falls away into the frozen sea. The realization settles upon the convoy not with a sense of relief, but with a heavy, leaden finality. The destination is not a sanctuary. It is merely a terminus, a place where the walking stops and the waiting begins. The visual texture of the world deepens into the profoundest blacks and blues. The artist has pressed the charcoal stick so hard against the paper that it has crumbled, leaving a thick, velvety darkness that absorbs the faint scratches of white snow. The only color remaining is the amber of our lanterns and the distant, sickly yellow of the watchtower. The ground beneath our boots undergoes a final transformation. The wind-scoured rock and the deep drifts give way to a paved road, or the ruin of one. Great slabs of granite, heaved up by the frost and settled at odd angles, form a chaotic mosaic underfoot. The boots strike the stone with a dull, hollow thudding that echoes in the stillness. Clomp, clomp, clomp. It is the sound of a hammer driving the last nails into a coffin. The wagons rock violently on the uneven stones, the wheels grinding against the granite, sending vibrations shuddering through the frames. The horses, sensing the end of their labor, do not speed up. They lack the energy for anticipation. They maintain the same slow, funeral plod, their heads bowed so low that their muzzles brush the frost that coats the stones. We follow them, a line of gray ghosts tethered to the machine of the convoy, pulled along by the inertia of the last 100 miles. The wind dies completely as we enter the shadow of the fortress. The structure looms above us, a monolithic wall of basalt and iron that stretches across the peninsula, blocking out the stars. It is drawn in heavy, vertical strokes, a barrier that separates the world of the living from the void beyond. There are no windows, only narrow slits for archers or riflemen who are long dead or asleep. The silence here is architectural. It is a silence built of stone and mortar, designed to contain the noise of the wind and crush the spirit of the traveler. We walk into this silence, and it wraps around us like a shroud. The sound of our breathing, the wet, ragged gasps of 60 men, becomes the only disturbance in the air. The steam from our mouths rises straight up, forming pillars of white mist that stand for a moment before dissolving into the dark. We reach the gate. It is a massive portal of timber bound in iron bands the width of a man's chest. The wood is black with age and preserved by the salt and the cold. The iron is pitted with rust, textured like the skin of a diseased beast. The gate is closed. We stop. The cessation of movement is jarring. The body, tuned to the rhythm of the march, protests. The legs tremble uncontrollably, the muscles firing in spasms of confusion. The momentum that held us upright evaporates, leaving us swaying, dizzy with fatigue. We lean against the chain, against each other, a cluster of exhausted humanity threatening to collapse into a pile of gray wool and frozen flesh. The lantern light flickers on the iron studs of the gate, creating small, sharp highlights in the gloom. We wait. There is no shout, no challenge, just the wall and the gate and the cold. The lead guard climbs down from the wagon. His movements are agonizingly slow, a pantomime of stiffness. He walks to a smaller door set within the great gate, a portal for men rather than giants. He hammers on the wood with the hilt of his sword. Thud, thud, thud. The sound is dull, heavy, absorbed instantly by the mass of the timber. We wait. The silence stretches out, taut as a bowstring. Has the world been abandoned? Is there no one left to let us in? The thought does not panic us. It simply sits there, another stone in the load we carry. If the door does not open, we will stand here. We will stand here until the frost takes us, until we become statues guarding the gate. It seems like a reasonable outcome, a fitting end to the drawing. Then a sound from within, the screech of a rusty bolt being drawn back, the groan of a heavy hinge. The small door opens inward, revealing a rectangle of darkness that is only slightly less absolute than the night outside. A figure appears, holding a lantern. He is wrapped in furs, his face hidden behind a mask of wool and ice. He exchanges a few words with our guard, low, guttural grunts that are more vibration than language. He steps back. The guard beckons. We move. The convoy cannot fit through the small door. The horses and wagons must wait. We, the walking cargo, are being unloaded. The process of unchaining is slow and clumsy. The keys are cold, the locks are frozen. The guards fumble with the mechanisms, cursing softly. We stand passive, waiting for the metal to release us. When the lock finally clicks and the cuff falls open, the sensation is strange. The wrist feels light, floating. The connection to the man in front and the man behind is severed. We are individuals again, but we do not feel like individuals. We feel like beads scattered from a broken necklace. We rub the raw skin where the iron bit, the pain dull and distant. We are herded towards the small door, shuffling through the opening one by one. Inside, the air is stagnant. It smells of old stone, damp straw, and unwashed bodies. It is not warm, but it is sheltered. The wind is gone. The biting edge of the frost is blunted. We are in a courtyard, a square of cobblestone surrounded by high walls. In the center, a fire pit smolders, producing more smoke than heat. A few figures are huddled around it, dark shapes that do not look up as we enter. We are guided across the courtyard, our boots slipping on the slick stones. The visual style here is murky, the details lost in the shadows. The lantern light struggles to penetrate the gloom, illuminating only patches of wet wall and dirty snow. We are led to a long, low building against the far wall. The barracks, the prison, the destination. The door is pushed open, revealing a cavernous space filled with rows of wooden bunks. There is no furniture, no comfort, just the bare wood and the stone floor. We file in, filling the space with the smell of wet wool and exhaustion. The guards stand at the door, watching. "Find a place," one says. The command is unnecessary. We drift towards the bunks like debris washing up on a shore. We do not fight for the best spots. There are no best spots. Every bunk is a hard, flat surface, and that is a luxury beyond measure. I sit down on the edge of a bunk. The wood is rough against my legs. I stare at the floor. The stone is worn smooth by generations of feet. How many have sat here before me? How many have walked the long road to reach this place? The thought is fleeting. My mind is shutting down, the higher functions flickering out one by one. The visual world is narrowing to a tunnel. The edges of my vision are turning black. The artist is putting down the pencil. The drawing is finished. I begin to unbutton my coat. The buttons are frozen, my fingers are useless. It takes a long time. I do not rush. There is no hurry anymore. The time for rushing is over. The time for walking is over. I manage to undo the top button, then the second. I stop. It is too much effort. I will sleep in the coat. I lie back on the wood. It is hard, unyielding, but it supports my spine. I do not have to hold myself up. I do not have to balance. I do not have to lift my foot. The relief is so profound it feels like a physical blow. The tension that has held my body together for days releases all at once. The muscles go slack. The bones settle. Around me, the sounds of the convoy settling in are soft and rhythmic. The rustle of cloth, the sigh of a mattress, the cough of a dry throat. The darkness in the room is not total. A single lantern hangs from a beam in the center of the ceiling, casting a weak pendulum swing of light that brushes over the sleeping forms. It creates a hypnotic pattern of light and shadow, a final lullaby for the weary. I watch the light swing back and forth. Left, right, left, right. It mimics the rhythm of the march. Even in rest, we are walking. The rhythm is burned into the brain. It will never leave. We will walk in our dreams. We will walk in our memories. The cold is still here. It is in the walls, in the floor, in the air. But it is a static cold. It is not the aggressive, hunting cold of the blizzard. It is a preservation cold. It will keep us here frozen in time until the next march begins. If there is a next march, I do not think about the future. The concept of tomorrow is too abstract. There is only the now of the bunk and the then of the road. The road is fading. The white noise of the wind is fading, replaced by the heavy silence of the stone. My eyes close. The darkness behind the lids is the same as the darkness of the room, a deep, rich charcoal gray. I see the afterimage of the lantern, a small amber dot that floats in the void. It moves slowly, drifting away, getting smaller and smaller. I try to follow it, but I am too heavy. I am sinking into the wood, sinking into the stone, sinking into the earth. The world is turning slowly beneath me. I can feel the rotation of the planet, a massive, slow grind of rock and ice. I am a speck of dust on a turning wheel. The man in the bunk above me shifts, the wood creaking softly. It is a comforting sound. I am not alone. We are still a convoy, even in sleep. We are a collection of souls bound by the shared history of the ice. We have walked to the end of the world and we have survived. For now, that is enough. The ambition of survival is satisfied. The hunger is quieted by the fatigue. The thirst is forgotten in the dark. The lantern above gutters. The oil is running low. The flame shrinks, turning from yellow to blue. The shadows in the corners of the room lengthen, reaching out towards the center. They are soft, velvet shadows wrapping around the bunks, tucking us in. The artist is shading the final corners of the page, filling in the last remaining white spaces with heavy, deliberate strokes of black. The image is almost complete. A room of sleeping men at the edge of the world. A study in gray and black. The flame dies, the light vanishes. The darkness is absolute, but it is not terrifying. It is a blanket, it is a wall, it is the end. The sound of breathing fills the room, a slow, collective tide of respiration. In, out, in, out. It sounds like the ocean we never saw. It sounds like the wind we left behind. I join the rhythm. I let go of the last thread of consciousness. I let go of the cold. I let go of the road. The pencil lifts from the paper, the drawing is done. The paper is black, the silence is perfect. We are here, we are still, we sleep.